welcome back to my channel. In this
What's going on, guys? Happy Thursday. Oh, fuck. I just woke up from like a nap. I was watching, like, me and my wife, we watched Naruto. We're watching Naruto Shippuden. One episode, like, I don't know, 80, 90. The one where, I think it's Shikamaru and Asuma versus the two Akatsuki dudes. That was fucking, they just had the fight. Asuma he went down, he died. And I like fell asleep for the 2 episodes after that, so I just got up. I'm just like, what the fuck happened? But so what I wanted to do today was go through a bunch of like Baldur's Gate videos, Baldur's Gate 3 videos, just to see if like this is what I want to continue to play. If I can get like, I really need like new ideas, because I feel like I touched on most of the game. Most of the shit to do in the game. There's a few class specific things that I haven't done yet, but I'm not like, kind of not in the mindset to like 100% min-max the game. So let's go through some of these videos. Yeah, I was looking at some of this shit too, especially like Extra Life's shit. It's really good. Like he's got a game cover like 100%, and he's got experience playing like older games and shit like that too. Older like D&D similar games and stuff like that. Like I haven't played a D&D game since Baldur's Gate 2, for Christ's sakes. So I thought it would be interesting just to go through some like Baldur's Gate videos and give me my 2 cents about the game and see if there's anything new here for me to continue to play the game. I'm gonna wake the fuck up. Alright.
And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight up gameplay.
Before You Buy is
and
really
our
good
first
too.
Impressions of the latest games releasing today. Hey, it's Baldur's Gate 3, baby. It's been a long time since there's been a Baldur's Gate, which, if you're not familiar, is top-down tactical Western RPG that was originally created by BioWare. Now, I've
Western?
been particularly interested in this entry because it's coming to us by way of
Like
Larian
American?
Studios, the same people who made Divinity, Original Sin 1 and 2, which are some of the best RPGs ever, in my opinion. So, perfect fit. I mean, these are some of the most beloved RPGs.
This thing that everyone always like references, Divinity, Original Sin 2. Holy fuck. Holy fuck, Google Sprite. Maybe I'll play this.
Many years I've spent searching for them, amidst the ruins, deep beneath the sands, where powerful secrets of an ancient Riverlong lie. Powers of forgotten gods, corrupted kings. Dangerous, yes, but power powerful? Oh, most certainly. Fortunes have been forged and ruined with their might, and those who dare to face the bearer of such powers, they all fall.
Have you come to claim the true power of the armor?
Captain Sex-Zapper, slaver of the seas,
Servant of the Source King.
I seek my fortune, my glory.
I am no witch. The spores do this.
To betray me shall cost
Okay, there's
you everything.
voice acting.
And I will not stop until I find them all. The hidden relics of Rivellon.
Okay, cool. Larian Studios, so they're gonna be a game company that I add to a very short list of companies that I trust in to make video games. Fucking Bethesda. Fucking Fallout 76. Sorry. I'm pretty sensitive about it. Although I didn't lose any money on that game and I bought and sold it like 3 times, but still it's like, dude, I cannot trust Bethesda anymore after Fallout 76. So Divinity Original Sin Definitive Edition is $45. $60. When did this game come out? Not that long ago. 4 years ago? 3.5 years? Includes by Divinity Original Sin Eternal Edition. Includes 6 items. Yeah. Beyond Divinity, Divine Divinity, Divinity 2 Developer's Cut, Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition, Divinity Original 2. Holy shit. Beyond Divin. What is this? Do I want to play like the originals? Oh, the originals. These are fucking old, huh? 2002? Goo. I don't know if I would want to pay for that. This is 2012. If there's... so the thing with these games that keep me immersed now, and which is like... I understand that people are... They're loyal to these older games. I'm loyal to old games that don't have fucking voice acting and stuff. But like voice acting and expensive like dialogue options makes a huge difference. Let me just okay. I'm fucking getting in the weeds here. Let me put down Divinity Original Sin 2. Divinity. Okay, that was the sidetrack. Sorry.
Of all time, so high expectations, and if anyone can do it, it's Larian. Big thing I have to mention here is this game is in early access. That means you cannot play it from start to finish. It's not possible. You can currently only play part of the first act, which is a pretty big chunk of the game. Larian is saying about 20 to 25 hours at the moment, but it's not even close to being the entire game. Currently, the game has 6 classes. You can play as 9 different races and sub-races. There are more planned to be added later. The game also incorporates multiplayer, so multiple people can play through the campaign, much like how it worked in the Divinity Original Sin games. So it needs to be said there are a few things that are different here. The game, for instance, is not a direct continuation of any of the story of the original Baldur's Gate games, so if that's what you're looking for, it's not there. That's not a bad thing. It's not a value judgment. And the game is more of a continuation of the series in spirit. It is set actually 100 years after the events of Baldur's Gate 2 and its expansion. so we may see some returning characters from previous games, but that story ended with Throne of Ball, the expansion to Baldur's Gate 2. The game problem, a mind flayer tadpole stuck in their head that'll eventually turn everything out, so you're not immediately
I want to get to the
with
point
like
where
some kind of information overload.
if
And
he's apprehensive
from our
about the purchase and shit like that.
The game does a great job with the default settings for each class. Obviously, you're free to modify things slightly to your liking, but if you go with what the game gives you, you should do fine. It's not going to be a disaster. By its nature, it's a little more rigid than the character building system in Truth balances out pretty well. And anybody who did go through character creation in the original Baldur's Gate games, you do not have to roll for stats in this one. Just uses a regular old point buy system. So yeah, you're not wasting time with that. And I know that some people like that, but truthfully, it's a bit of a hassle when you could just be using a point buy system. The original Baldur's Gate games were based off Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd Edition. So you had some quirks like armor.
Shit, he's comparing. Okay, so now I understand why people are like constantly comparing this game with Divinity Original Sin 2, because that's the last thing Larian Studios, is that what they're called, was working on. But now he's comparing it to Baldur's Gate 2. When the fuck did Baldur's Gate 2 come out? That's got to be over 10 years. Baldur's Gate 2 initial release date 2000.
Score going down as it got better. Baldur's Gate is based off Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the newest one, so a lot of the underlying mechanics are simplified, especially compared to the kind of confusing rules governing the original games. The game is, however, brutal right out of the gate. It does not take much to die, and you will want to save a lot. Experimentation is obviously key, just like with the previous Larian Divinity games. There are a lot of environmental
Wait.
And
What is this fight? Secluded Cove? I've never done this fight in the game.
you will want to save a lot.
Harpy?
Experimentation is obviously key, just like with the previous Larian Divinity games. There are a lot of environmental hazards that you can use against enemies, or you can just, kill yourself with if you're not careful.
Yeah, I've done that.
Surprisingly, wizards have a lot of utility with spells that can do basic things like make rain or make a character be able to jump 3 times as far. Mages aren't just stuck shooting magic missiles and giving characters defensive buffs. They're also sometimes actually necessary for exploration. It can also be pretty easy to miss things like this sequence where you talk to a brain near the start. You need someone with a high enough jump skill to get up there, and the fact there's a little
Dude, this is shit. This is all this shit I've missed.
bit of verticality to the areas is enough to throw anyone off who's used to playing a lot of CRPGs. One thing that is very similar to the old games, however, is the amount of loot you collect. It's not a ton, but everything you get feels significant. It's a good balance, and honestly, I think a lot of newer games could learn from it. In general, the game really emphasizes that it's a D&D game.
We made a fucking
with
Chad,
stuff
huh?
like actually rolling a virtual die when you need to do a skill check, or the way recovery works, where you actually go to a uniquely instanced camp area rather than just press to go back to a camp and end the day. Camp is pretty interesting too. The way recovery works, where you actually go to a unique.
So I thought recovery wasn't dealt with great. In the game, I felt like at any given point, I think there's only like one fucking area, like the Hag's Lair, that allows you to not fast travel away. I wonder if I should have like just like light music in the background. I can't like not listen to something. It's weird. Oh, but if it's fucking Crab Rave, I gotta juice it. Oh, not Crab Rave. What's the song? Oh, maybe it is this one. This one's good. Yeah, you could fucking just, there's no restriction to short rest, so you get 2 short rests before you have to long rest. And then you could just long rest whenever the fuck you wanted. Really, the only downside of long rest was like, it typically progressed the disease of the illithid worm inside your brain.
Weekly instance camp area rather than just press a button to rest. And also in keeping in D&D rules, many skills and spells can only be used once a day. Once the ability is used, you can't use it until you go back to a camp and end the day. Camp is pretty interesting too. It works pretty much the same as it did in Dragon Age Origins. It's the place where you can talk to your party members, get little bits of story before you go to sleep. And yes, you can romance party members if you want. Gives you a lot of freedom, depending on what you want to do. Side quests are everywhere. Some of them are really short. Others are a lot more involved. The way the game introduces side quests feels pretty natural most of the time. Like they're introduced in notes. Sometimes they start from NPCs just doing things that you can follow, or you'll get them from wandering like to random corners of the map. In general, the quality of voice acting also pretty impressive. Like even in utterly unimportant NPCs, like
the voice acting is
good.
fucking crazy.
Let's also say how good the character models are as well. Not everything looks great all the time. There are a couple of awkward animations, but when some random NPC talks, she was not just a series of canned animations, but animations made specifically for that character, and that is really impressive. Now, we got to talk about combat because there are some big changes here. Baldur's Gate 3 is turn-based, and that is not how the originals were. The originals had real-time with pause, whereas this game is just standard turn-based. Like the Divinity Original Sin games both had turn-based combat, so it's not much of a surprise that Larian did what works for them. And also, those are fantastic games, so I'm certainly not upset with it. However, you will notice that this game, compared to other Larian games, has very fast combat. It might seem like a minor thing, but the speed your characters perform actions and move around is a real breath of fresh air for a turn-based combat game. At this
See, I think this was written in October, the beginning of October. I actually think combat's fucking slow, waiting on the enemy to attack you and
we're
shit.
We're used to a lot of waiting around, characters moving, then stopping, then attacking slowly, then game stopping for the AI to figure out its next move. There's not a lot of that here. It feels very fluid and very fun, and even in early access. And you get
I think it's fluid, it's cohesive, and the pacing is good, but it is slow. It's like on the slow end for large fights like this, for example, when there's fucking 20 characters on the screen that need to go. If you're not controlling most of them, sometimes they just like they try to process what they're gonna do right on their turn, which kind of fucking makes sense because they got to see what fucking everyone else does, and then it's like, oh, I gotta compute what I can do out of all my repertoire of shit that I can do and what just happened on the battlefield and stuff like that.
Of options right out of the gate with your combat, like being able to fully.
I almost wish there was like a like 3 times speed or fast forward thing on the enemy's turn kind of thing. Like just let them take their fucking turn, but I don't need to see the whole animation and how they do it, or an accelerated version of it.
Move, get an attack, and free action. Every turn is really nice when compared to like the shared movement and attack points of previous Larian games. You don't have to worry about not being able to attack if you move too far in this game as well, so moving around the battlefield is something you can freely do, rather than the standard tactic in the Divinity games, where you kind of stand in place and hoard as many action points as you can. That is not to say this is an easy game, though. Combat, it can be pretty lethal.
Oh, the owlbear. It was
like that in the previous Larian games, and it is like that here. If you want a challenging CRPG experience, this is the game to play. Enemies can kill you fast if you're not careful, and the smart application of your abilities can turn a tough battle into something much more manageable. That is to say, be strategic, man. I chose to play as a cleric, and they're usually pretty all-around good class in D&D, and I wasn't disappointed by that. Even though your character starts out very measly at level 1, you've got a good selection of spells, and you can make some meaningful choices in combat right from the start. Stealth, also very expanded here compared to the old games. Outside of giving enemies vision cones, like in Divinity Original Sin 2, you can also hide in dark places. Combine that with magic that can distract enemies, and you have a ton of options that you can sneak. And comparing this to basically any other CRPG I've ever played, very, very good. You can turn this game into a top-down stealth game in some parts. Speaking of top-down, let's talk what this game...
That stealth map where it's like red and they'll see you, or you have to pass a stealth check in order for them to not perceive you, it was really good.
Looks like. It is incredible looking on full settings. Like, genuinely just right up there with AAA studio output with facial modeling and animations. Environments, just fantastic. Although we have encountered a couple of graphical bugs, Again, early access build is kind of expected, but it is something to keep in mind. That said, the amount of detail is almost overwhelming in this game. Combined with all the various things you can click on and interact with, you're definitely going to miss a few things. Thankfully, there is a highlight interactable objects button. You just press Alt, that's it. Because without that, I think you'd probably lose a lot of stuff in the environment. Again, detail oriented. The big set piece moments feel like something out of a modern BioWare game rather than one of the old ones. The fact they're able to combine these huge events while also having classic CRPG gameplay honestly impresses me, like, just on its own. But to sum up, this is an early access game, but what is on offer at this very moment is really impressive, and there is a decent amount of it. Everything that we have seen.
Yeah, so for an early access game, I know that I occasionally get this question is like, is it worth it for $60? I mean, I played this game for 70 hours. Or at least that's what I have recorded on Steam.
Points to this.
And I don't just like sit in the fucking menu. Like I don't just sit in the fucking menu on games and shit like that. So it is like 70 active hours.
This game being a step up for Larian
and
Studios.
I'm contemplating doing another run through, which is going to be a minimum of another 20 hours.
Like, they are progressing like a studio should, and this is really a phenomenal game so far, especially for an early access title. Does it feel like a Baldur's Gate game? It's a little bit harder to say that. It does get across the D&D feeling, but it also does feel more like Larian than Black Isle or BioWare. I mean, it starts with an exploding brain spaceship being attacked by dragons and demons. It's a lot wilder than the relatively sedate stories of the first two Baldur's Gate games. We love those games, but this is also a crazier take on D&D and feels new and fresh, to be completely honest. It's not all high concept stuff, though. The subtler things are well written and interesting as well, especially the dialogues with your companions at the camp. They are immediately unique and interesting. Like, interpersonal conflicts play out in a way that kind of feels natural, especially for a game like this. Still, game does have some noticeable bugs and some wonky visuals, and again, early access. It's only partially done. Larian says not to expect the full game for at least another year, so it's
Oh my
really
God, I didn't
important
know
to
you can
consider
go all
that
the way
when
down
you
there in
do
the Druid's
see
Grove.
these kind of little mess ups. I guess it depends on the type of person you are. Are you okay with playing the game early, knowing that it is a little rough around the edges, absorbing the content as it gets added, or do you want to play the game as a complete thing right from the start? I have a feeling, to some extent, it may even end up feeling a little bit like an episodic game as they add more content, which wouldn't be the worst thing. I like episodic games because I like having the game sort of spread out over time. It gives you time to process story stuff. But at the same time, it's also a Baldur's Gate game, not a Telltale game. And if you do want to...
It is cool to be able to, like, in early access right now, kind of completely grind out the act. But I feel like once I'm done grinding out the act and I've looked under every fucking barrel and shit like that, and I've done every side quest and quest, I would need new content at that point.
To wait, at least
and then I
you
would just put it down, wait for them to make new content, new class, whatever, and then check it out
to
again.
pay more for the finished game. Larian released the game into early access at full price, so there will not be a price hike at the end of the campaign, but also there's no savings for early adopters. Kind of both a pro and a con. Ultimately, I have to say, this is a great game. For me, I'm kind of digging that they've done what they've done with Baldur's Gate, but I sense that there may be some people that don't agree with that. So from my perspective, it's one to buy. I've gotten a ways in. I'm not all the way through the 20-25 hours. I certainly want to play more of it. I will definitely go through the entire game. It is engaging. Larian Studios is just fantastic.
Ooh,
and I'm excited.
nice crit.
Like, I'm really excited. It's fun. And if you out there played it, though, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day.
Yeah, good video, man. I was looking at Asmongold played it. What did Asmongold have? This is just him
Today,
playing it.
we embark on a new journey. We embark.
Fucking weird
new
not seeing him
horizon.
play World of Warcraft.
Those of you all who've asked me to play variety, you've asked me to do different things. And Wizards Master of the Arcane. Autosave successful? Okay, good. I beat the game already.
You playing a
Who's this?
fighter?
Bro, what? That's badass.
Yeah,
But I don't
playing
think
a
I'm gonna
fighter.
go with that. Okay, so
Okay, it's just
One
him
for
playing.
Charlatan.
That's cool. I didn't know he actually played it. Walkthrough, no. What I think some of the ones that I wanted to go through were Fexture's Life's character guides. Some of the classes that I haven't been playing and shit like that. 15 reasons why might be one of the best RPGs.
There's been a lot of talk about role-playing games as of late, which ones will be the biggest, most epic, and feature-packed. With the launch of Baldur's Gate 3 into early access last year and its progress ever since, it's becoming more and more obvious that Larian Studios has something incredible to offer. But what makes the eagerly anticipated follow-up so special? How might it be the biggest RPG? Baldur's Gate 3 utilizes the Divinity 4.0 engine, which has been designed, quote, from the ground up for the game. The goal is to allow one to play, quote, exactly how you'd like to play with, quote, many possibilities for good and evil. Note also everything in between. The new engine and larger development team
Yeah, the engine's good. It didn't take away from the game at all. I feel like it added.
pushes this notion, quote, much further than Divinity Original Sin 2. Given that it takes place 100 years after Baldur's Gate 2, there will be plenty of opportunities for heroics and evil deeds alike. AAA budget and staff. This is the biggest project that Larian Studios has worked on till date, with a AAA budget and a staff of over 250 developers and 100 outsourced employees. Performance capture for cutscenes. Another big change from Larian's previous game is the addition of motion capture for its cinematics. Dialogue interactions now take place in a closer perspective, showcasing
Fuck this guy. Fuck this Githyanki crew. They fucked me up so bad until I was able to get crits with the
the
stereo.
characters' expressions and gestures as they react to you. The development team's cinematic producer and director hail from Telltale Games, and while the current project launched in a very raw form, there have been tons of improvements. Some cinematics have even been reshot and look even better than before. Origin characters. Much like Divinity Original Sin 2, players will have a choice of different origin characters. These are characters that have their own unique stories and goals alongside the main story. These include Asterion, a high elf rogue who's also a vampire spawn. Gale, a human wizard who seeks greatness but also has a literal ticking time bomb in his body. Shadowheart, a high half-elf trickster tasked with recovering a powerful item, and so on. There are currently 5 origin characters available in the early access version, with even more to be added over time. And even if you're not keen on playing as them,
Today's
they
video
can
is
be
sponsored-
recruited to your party. Those seeking a set protagonist with their own quirky personality, skills, and story can take one of the origin characters for a spin and learn the ropes. In-depth character creator. But that's just the beginning. A robust character creator is a must for any Dungeons & Dragons RPG. To that end, Baldur's Gate 3 offers 150 unique heads for its various races and sub-races, with more on the way. Numerous backgrounds that offer proficiency in different skills, a range of skin and eye color choices, several hairstyles and colors, tattoo styles, makeup styles, the works. While some features could be made more robust, like the number of voices available, there are tons of options to create your fantasy character of choice.
Voice options? The main character doesn't fucking talk. They just grunt and make action sounds in combat. So maybe? If it was like a character that requires a lot of dialogue, like conversing with, so the main character doesn't really speak, you choose a bunch of different dialogue options. What they say is silent. So like I typically read it out loud as the character or whatever, which I really like. Then the NPC responds. Having new voices for the NPCs would be a shit ton of like voice acting work, but like the main character, I don't think it would take too much effort. It would take a lot of, I mean, it's a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's just like crazy to have different grunts from a person.
And classes. There are currently 8 races in the game, several having 2 to 3 sub-races. These include Dwarf with the Gold Dwarf and Shield Dwarf sub-races, Elf with the High Elf and Wood Elf sub-races, Tiefling with Asmodeus, Mephistopheles, and Zariel sub-dwarf with the Gold Dwarf and Shield Dwarf sub-races, Elf.
That's not an elf. Get the Yankee.
With the High Elf and Wood Elf sub-races.
These are all get the Yankees, right? They got the little upturned nose.
Tiefling with Asmodeus, Mephistopheles, and Zariel subraces, and so on. Each race has its own unique traits, like the Wood Elf's Fleet of Foot for faster base walking speed, or the Halfling's Strongheart Resilience for advantage on saving throws against poison. They also have different bonus points in stats like Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, etc., with separate proficiencies in armor. But there's even more. There are also 6 classes, each with different primary abilities and saving throw proficiencies, along with their own subclasses, for a whopping 13 choices at present. Sorcerer, Druid, Bard, Barbarian, etc. come to expect from D&D is here. Attack rolls, which can be influenced by ability and proficiency modifiers, reinforced by interacting with the environment. Dip a weapon in fire, freedom of choice.
You're just going over the game now. This is not really what I wanted to cover. I want to cover what you should know before you buy. Like, should I buy this game early access? If this is your fucking cup of tea, yes. Like I said, I have 70 fucking hours. $60 or 70 hours plus, worth it. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. But like, if you're not sure, fucking wait.
Western Digital. If you're a fan of classic fantasy RPGs, you probably know the name Baldur's Gate. The original launched in 1998 as an open-world epic set.
Oh shit, this is Force? He looks way different. I used to watch Force back in the day.
In the Dungeons and Dragons universe,
StarCraft?
Where recently, and
what did Force used to do?
Baldur's Gate 2 came out all the way back in September of 2000. Besides the release of an enhanced edition, the series has been pretty dormant for nearly 20 years, not giving much hope to fans of the franchise. But all of that is about to change. Baldur's Gate 3 is coming very soon, but this time, BioWare's not in the picture. The third installment of this classic RPG series is being made by Larian Studios. They have a long history of making fantasy role-playing. Western Digital, recently they said, if you multitask, it can help you deal with the higher performance demands and large are some of the reasons.
Whatever, dude. Make your money. I just don't like the paid advertisement. It's like you get the light. But pay he needs to make his own fucking money, right?
The Divinity series became so popular, and it looks like they're taking all of those elements and more into Baldur's Gate 3. Of course, the game is set in the Forgotten Realms, where you must gather a party and embark on what they are calling a tale of friendship and betrayal, sacrifice and survival, and the lore of absolute power. This Mind Flayer parasite.
Fuck, do you see those portrait windows?
Must gather a party and
look in the
embark
bottom
on
left
what
here,
they are
these portrait
calling a
windows.
tale of friendship and betrayal, sacrifice and survival.
You can tell,
and the lore of
look at like the UI is like way fucking different too. It's
absolute
cool.
power.
Like when it, what
this
it originally
Mind Flayer
looks
parasite has been planted in your brain, which deals or an entertainer who lives to pick from one of the handcraft mode. You get to choose.
Alright, he's just explaining the game. This is not what I wanted.
Is in its initial early access stages, which makes it kind of hard to do a traditional game review.
So this guy has 100 hours played. I'm pretty close. If I did one more playthrough, I'd probably be pretty close to 100.
Probably like 95 or so. Holy shit.
See what he has to
I
say.
figured I'd share some of my thoughts, not focusing so much on bugs or things that are going to obviously be fixed, changed, or added, but more so focusing on the foundation of this turn-based RPG and how I think it's going to ultimately turn out on its full release. Welcome to the Forgotten Realms, to the beautiful but deadly continent of Faerun, where Baldur's Gate is located. But like Baldur's Gate 2, you're not going to really see much of Baldur's Gate. In fact, you won't see it at all in early access. We're definitely headed that way according to the game, but I wouldn't put it past any developer.
What's he playing? Playing a rogue, he doesn't have a Astarion.
Developer in this genre to sidetrack our quest even further into magic
or a
mushroom
hunter.
heaven. And hell, I'm not even complaining. On a real note, I'm very excited to see the city when we finally get to see it. The anticipation is pretty crazy. Those Larian Studios. The game so far is visually stunning, and I find myself just standing in one area for long periods of time. I oftentimes find myself trying to pull the camera up a little bit more to get an eye's view of the land and the sky, and then I get pissed off because I can't. And then I remember that this is more so an isometric game and that we're blessed to even be able to zoom into a third-person view. And then I forgive Larian, and then I go back to trying to pull the camera back up. I absolutely love the environment that
yeah, I try to do
Larian
that
has
shit
created.
too.
And don't even get me started with going into the Underdark.
Trying to
Stepping
like
foot into the Underdark for the
trying to move the fucking camera around the map past like where the characters can see. I'm like, I just want to see around this corner. What's over here?
first time in early access is a gaming moment that I'm likely not to forget for generations to come. Alright, that's a little exaggerated, but I won't forget for a couple months. Larian's attention to detail and the power behind their large team and expensive
sneaking bear
engine is evident in early access. And honestly, even if the game kinda sucked, I probably would encourage some D&D or fantasy fans in general to buy the game and just run around and take it all in. Now let's talk about mechanics and gameplay. Those of you familiar with
this game's gonna be fucking amazing when it's finished. So it is. I always find it like a hard ask for people to like, should I buy this in early access for $60? Like that's a lot. Like think how much you can get for $60. You can get pretty much the whole Divinity Original Sin catalog, I think.
D&D will catch on quickly to many of the rules and mechanics behind the game. If you're obsessed with D&D, you'll probably be pissed off that everything's not exactly like 5th edition. If you don't play D&D, you'll probably be pissed off that it is like 5th edition. And those of you in the middle will have a damn good time. All jokes aside, it seems like Larian is onto something.
I'm in the middle. I'm not like a fucking stickler for the rules. I'm glad that like they did do some shit with 5e. 5e is super overpowered. But it's a fucking video game. They can do whatever the fuck they want. I like some of the shit that they do. Like the some of the combat choices and things like that. It makes it more fun to play a video game versus like being a stickler for the rules for D&D 5e.
Good here. Overall, the current early access game's mechanics worked well enough
like
for me
jump to
really
disengage. I fucking love that.
Although it definitely
you can move and disengage
perfect.
as a bonus
game,
action,
however,
pretty much.
Was playable and enjoyable, and I think it's in a good place. In fact, a better place than I probably could have hoped for the initial launch of early access. There are many things that need to be tweaked, changed, or added, but that's the beautiful thing about an early access game with a company that we can trust. I have faith in Larian Studios to make the necessary changes. They certainly seem to have the team and resources to pull changes off that other companies wouldn't even be able to do. In terms of actual gameplay, on my gaming rig with a 2070 Super, it has been pretty smooth. It's not janky or anything like that. Even the FPS drops were not that noticeable for myself. However,
I'm playing on a 980 Ti. I think it's 8 gigabytes. It's either 6 or 8. I'm pretty sure it's 8, but I have to play on like medium settings.
Speak for others. Those of you who have had
while
problems, I would assume that most of that will be sorted out as time goes on. Either that or your computer just sucks.
Yeah.
I also did a full playthrough on Google Stadia, and it ran pretty well over there.
I fucking look at these people's videos and shit, and they're like, "Yeah, your computer sucks." This guy's like dead on, man. It's like he's like, "Yeah, your computer sucks." I'm like, "Fuck, man, you fucking elemental detail or environmental detail is so much nicer than mine."
Well, minus the Druid's Enclave, but that could be fixed by now. Now let's talk about combat. So far in early access, there's only one difficulty for all, and it has seemed to satisfy every difficulty level I've seen on the spectrum, at least on my first playthrough. There were a couple fights that were far too easy and honestly a little boring, others that were very intense, and some that downright murdered me and left me wondering if I should go back to killing bots in COD. I very much have enjoyed the combat, but like we talked about earlier, there are things that need to be tweaked and changed. There seems to be too many ways to cheese fights, or use mechanics that would make what would be a really intense fight drop dramatically in difficulty with just one single action. Shove. Master did a saving throw. Not gonna be. Hey, Bernard! Bernardo! Say goodbye to Bernard's brother. Peace out. Get the hell out of my freaking tower. Some combat encounters, when fought on even ground with your opponents, end up being really intense close battles that could turn into long-lasting heroic stories. But the moment that you set your party up on high ground, it becomes a game of find the star on the Christmas tree. But overall, I can tell that we're starting off on the right foot. The foundation.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't fucking like was like, if you're ranged, like a caster or a bow user or some shit like that, you get advantage the higher elevation you are on the target. So then that kind of becomes a like you said, like fucking climbing up the Christmas tree trying to find the best
and it's a hell
spot.
of a lot of fun.
A little
There
stupid.
were many good combat encounters in early access, and the things that need to be looked into and possibly changed don't seem like they're impossible tasks to ask for a company like Larian. If you're completely new to D&D stuff, you will be confused in combat, but the overall system is not that bad once you learn the basics. It seems like Larian is already adding more tutorial type features to early access, which will certainly help. Onto the story, which might be the best part of this game so far. I have learned a lot of D&D lore over the years, but after 3 playthroughs of early access, I still can't predict anything with any sort of confidence. There's a variety of factions that come into play, some more familiar than others. You've got evidence of many.
I like his character design. I like how
I still can't the story, which might be the best
like
part
look at
of
his
this
character
game
space
so
for a
far.
second.
I have learned a lot of D&D lore over the years, but after 3 playthroughs of early access, I still can't predict anything with any sort of confidence. There's a variety of factions that come into play.
So his character, I always find that like people, there's like you're gonna get 3 different types of people. I just find this fascinating from like a psychological standpoint. It's like people either make themselves, if they're typically like confident in themselves, they make like a version of themselves, or they straight up lie and they make the ideal version of themselves, or they're just like, fuck it, I want to make a chick so that like everyone comes and talks to me when I'm fucking in game, and then you have like a dude's voice and you're like, whoa, what the fuck?
Evidence of many of the D&D gods everywhere you go. We've got the Absolute, the 9 Hells, and of course the evil
I played a
space
chick, if you guys were
octopuses,
wondering.
the Mind Flayers. The Mind Flayers alone are an extremely interesting race, and then mix them in with the 9 Hells and the gods, you got yourself one hell of a story. I can sense a deep complexity behind the plot, but I also see it all coming together nicely in the future with the full game. Each origin character has their own stories going on as well, some better than others. It's hard to judge though this early on. They will all react differently to elements of the main plot, making your party formation have a fairly big impact on the stories that unfold around you. Lastly, let's talk about permutations and replayability. Each of my playthroughs have all turned out pretty differently from each other, showing how much work is truly going into this game. The amount of permutations is actually incredible, and I think that this aspect of the game in particular is going to help shape the future and raise the standards of many upcoming RPGs. There are not many games.
Yeah, so he's saying like the permutations and possibilities. Every conflict point in the game, be it like a side mission or main mission or something, there seems to be about like anywhere from 2 to 5 possibilities of what you can do. Most of the time it's 3. It's like talk the person out of it, fight the person, or convince the person to do something or some shit like that. It's usually along those lines.
Out there like this,
but what's cool is it has rippling effect throughout the game.
Sometimes due to limited resources, but many times due to companies just not wanting to spend the time and money because they think they'll get our money either way, and many times unfortunately they do. But Larian is taking on this insane task and so far pulling it off. I have played early access probably more than most, and I still hear of other players' playthroughs and how certain events unfolded very differently from my own experience. And if it wasn't for a YouTube live chat, I would have missed at least 2 fairly big combat encounters in their own respective areas, even after 3+ playthroughs.
Just watching these people's videos and shit like that too. There's fights and things in this game that I
Larian gets
haven't
an
seen
A+
yet.
in this category, and I can't wait to see this further expanded upon on the full release. It deserves praise, and I'm definitely going to give it. I encourage everyone to play through early access multiple times, and even if you don't change your race and class, if you take slightly different actions, things are going to unfold differently. To summarize everything, I definitely recommend early access for those of you who enjoy participating in games in this stage of development. As time goes on, Larian will be adding more classes and races, and to say that I honestly want to try them all says something about a game. Keep playing, guys, keep providing feedback, and I think we got ourselves an RPG that will stick with us for years to come. thanks so much for watching, guys. As I said, it was kind of hard to do a review on a game that's in early access. I saw a bunch of articles.
Damn, he had
out
a
there,
fucking 100 hours by November 3rd.
I don't know what people expect for a game that's in early access with a company that says they're willing to change things. I guess we'll find out. But guys, thank you so much for watching.
Good video. All right, so this is the shit that I wanted to watch. Fextra Life stuff.
In this Baldur's Gate 3 Druid class build guide, I'm going to be covering my...
I just want to go through some of these guys just to see if like I missed anything or if anything looks enticing,
Druid
like
build
what I
for
want to
early
do for my
access
next
and showing you
playthrough,
what I
next
found would
character.
work best. I'll be doing more build guides at the launch of Baldur's Gate 3, but for now, let's look at how you can use a Druid effectively in the first act of early access. Druids are divine spellcasters that not only cast damaging spells, but can also heal and take the shape of different creatures via their Wild Shape class feature.
Yeah, I did Wild Shape Druid.
Is
it's
what
pretty
really
good.
Sets the Druid apart from other classes, and in early access, Druids can currently change into 7 different animals, including Direwolf, Raven, Badger, Polar Bear, Cat, Deep Rothe, Spider, and Aberrant Intellect Devourer. But more are expected upon full release of the game.
I say
Each
Roth.
of these animals not only has their own hit points, abilities, and attacks, but they also have various features that allow the Druid to do much more than it ever could in its human form. For example, the Badger can burrow underground, allowing him to go under obstacles that might be in his way. Or, for example, the Raven allows the Druid to fly great distances, making it possible to reach places he wouldn't otherwise be able to. However, because these things are extremely powerful, the Druid can only use his Wild Shape 2 times before needing to short rest to recover this ability. One really important thing to note about Wild Shape as well is that changing into a creature gives you a separate health pool for that creature, completely independent to the health pool of the Druid before it's shifted. This makes Druids who use Wild Shape in combat extremely durable, since they essentially have 2 health pools. In this section, we'll take a look at how to set up your Druid during character creation for the best results. You don't have to follow this to the letter, and it's likely this will change at full launch of the game. However, this will hold you in good stead.
See what he says about Druid
For
creation.
background, I suggest taking any that provides you wisdom
Usually
skills, since Druids need a good amount of this ability to
you want a
hit
wisdom
targets with their
stack.
spells.
So typically with a Druid, strength, dexterity, constitution. When you Wild Shape, at least in 5e, your stats change to whatever the animal it is that you're changing into, but your int, wisdom, and charisma maintain.
These are animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival.
I only played Druid in 5e for like 1 or 2 nights, so.
Ideally, you'd have all 5 of these if possible, but you're more likely going to get 3 out of 5. The first race I think works well for the Druid class is Gold Dwarf. Not only does it provide +1 wisdom, which allows you to get to 16 wisdom during character creation, it gives you +2
Oh, he's a wee boy.
which increases your HP when not using Wild Shape, and allows you to pass concentration checks more easily should you get hit while concentrating on a spell. Wood Elf is also a decent choice because it provides +2 dexterity and +1 wisdom, which helps with armor class when not using Wild Shape, and still allows you to get to 16 wisdom during character creation. Last but not least is Human, which allows you to get to 16 in wisdom, dexterity, and constitution if you want, though you'll have to dump all 3 other abilities.
Human is the worst. Human is the worst. Can I get my recommendation for this? Pick a fucking elf class so you can fucking see in the dark.
In Wild Shape, your strength, dexterity, and constitution modifiers will
Although Wild Shape forms are going to have being able to see in the dark anyway,
replaced
so
by
I don't
those
know.
of the creature you shift into, though you will retain your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma modifiers. For this reason, strength is not needed for the Druid build in early access. However, because you cannot cast spells while shifted, you will get benefit from constitution and dexterity when you are not. For skills, again, it's not super important, but you'll have high dexterity and wisdom, so selecting skills that fall under these abilities is ideal. Dexterity has acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth, and I've already listed what wisdom skills there are. Your primary ability as a Druid is wisdom, as this makes your spells more effective in combat, and
So this is more like min-maxing.
can even increase the damage you deal in melee combat if you use the cantrip Shillelagh. For this reason, you'll want at least 16 of this ability during character creation, and likely 18 later on. Constitution and
There should be an achievement in the game for using Shillelagh
dexterity
on,
are really
St.
the only
Patrick's
other
Day.
abilities that have use, but they have no effect when you're shifted, so they aren't as useful as they could be. If you plan to cast spells more often than use Wild Shape in combat, such as if you're a Circle of Land Druid, then you'll get more use from these.
Circle of Land,
Get these to
gross.
at least 14 each. Note that medium armor only allows you a bonus of +2 dexterity, so you don't need more than 14 dexterity. You can dump intelligence, charisma, and strength if you wish to use other spells that are not prepared. You might be a wizard or warlock, you'll be able to prepare any spells you know, and druids know
Dude, if you're going to be a spellcaster, just be a wizard.
all this whip is one of them. Thorn Whip deals damage and pulls enemies towards you.
Ah,
Shillelagh allows
Thorn
the
Whip
druid.
sucks.
Druid just allows you and party members to strike those in the light more easily, because if there is not enough light, then attackers have disadvantage if they don't have dark vision. Some druid spells require concentration in order to remain active. You can tell which these are because it will say on the spell itself. Concentration can be broken if you cast another spell that requires concentration. So for example, if you cast Fairy Fire on an enemy, but then you cast Flame Blade, you will stop concentrating on Fairy Fire and begin concentrating on Flame Blade. But that is not the only way concentration can be broken. If you take damage while concentrating on a spell, then you must make a Constitution saving throw, and if you fail, then the effect of that spell ends. Should you succeed in your saving throw, however, then you maintain your concentration and the from other spellcasting classes. A couple level 1 spells I highly recommend are Entangle, Thunderwave, and Fairy Fire. Good Berry and Healing Word are also not bad choices. Entangle allows you to
You don't need a good berry. There's fucking food everywhere in the game for you to eat.
crowd control a group of enemies in an area if they should fail a strength check. This can be great in fights where you're outnumbered or you need to cover your flank. Thunderwave is an excellent AoE that can knock enemies backward, often to their deaths, but has a short range. Use this when enemies get near you. Fairy Fire is an AoE that gives you
Fairy Fire is amazing.
and your party advantage on all attack rolls versus affected targets, but requires concentration to maintain. This can seriously change the direction of a battle as long as you can maintain it. Goodberry can provide a near infinite. What's particularly good about Healing Word as well is that it
Healing Word, yeah. So I had Healing Word on my Druid playthrough because it allows you to pick up down characters from at ranged as a bonus action.
is a bonus action to Land and Circle of the Moon. Circle of the Land allows the Druid an additional cantrip as well as the ability to replenish some spells once per long rest. Although the focus of this subclass in 5th edition D&D is nature magic, it doesn't really have much of an impact in early access as it is currently because you can't get past level 4. Circle of the Moon Druids have a heavier focus on the wild shape ability, allowing them to use it as a bear, which has a huge health pool at 30, allowing them to tank many hits in combat without dying. Polar bears can goad enemies into attacking.
I felt
them,
like the
making
two
Druid
best
who uses this
wild shape
combination a great
forms,
tank for the group.
Polar
If
Bear
you're going to use
and
wild
Deep
shape
Roth.
in combat, Polar Bear is the way to go. On top of that, Circle of the Moon Druids can consume a spell slot in order to heal themselves while transformed, allowing them to stay shifted longer. The amount of healing gained is equal to a d8 per spell slot level. Because resting is not so much of an issue in Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access and players can rest pretty much at will, I highly suggest choosing the Circle of the Moon Druid subclass for the time being. If resting ever changes or is different at live release, then this may change, but for now, it's your best option. At level 3, you'll gain another level 1 spell slot, 2 level 2 spell slots, and you'll gain access to level 2 Druid spells. There are a lot of great spells here, and I highly recommend Enhance Ability, Spike Growth, Moonbeam, and Heat Metal. Enhance Ability allows you to grant advantage on checks related to one ability as well as some other effects in certain cases. This is a fantastic way to improve checks like Perception or perhaps in dialogue with Intimidation or Persuasion to get the outcome you want. Note, this does not apply to saving throws or attack rolls with that ability. Spike Growth allows you to control a large space of the battlefield with thorns that slow creatures and damage them if they try to move through it. This is an excellent way to keep enemy melee units from getting to your friendlies and can be invaluable when you are outnumbered. Moonbeam hits for 2d10 radiant damage and a small AoE that persists on the ground after it's cast, dealing damage every round. And what's really great about this ability is that you can spend an action to move the AoE up to 18 meters. This means you only need to cast it once per combat and can conserve valuable spell slots. Heat Metal allows you to deal 2d8 fire
Moonbeam
damage
was
to a
alright.
target that
I
is
didn't
wielding
fuck
a
around
metal
with Heat
weapon.
Metal, though.
In addition, it gives them disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks until your next turn.
I should have fucked around with Heat Metal instead of
That's
Flame
all
Blade
on top
or whatever.
of being able to cast it again on the target as a bonus action, dealing damage and reapplying disadvantage. In short, this is a great spell to lock down tough enemies. Once you reach level 3, you'll be able to cast some level 1 spells as level 2 versions using level 2 spell slots instead of level 1 spell slots. This works out tremendously for this build because it allows you to cast some of the better level 1 spells as more powerful versions. For instance, you can cast Thunderwave at level 2 for an extra 1d8 damage, or you can cast Healing Word for an extra 1d4 healing. At level 4, you'll gain another level 2 spell slot as well as another cantrip. Additionally, you can pick a feat, and I highly recommend taking Ability Improvement to get 18 in Wisdom. As a druid, you simply cannot have enough Wisdom, so this is the obvious choice. Equipment is less useful to druids that remain shifted for long periods of time. However, it can be very helpful in combat situations where they are casting spells. Since they have decent dexterity, they'll want to have a ranged weapon of some type, as well as a club or quarterstaff that they can buff with Shillelagh. I recommend a club though, since this will allow you to use a shield in your offhand, which will increase your armor class by +2. Druids can use shields, so you might as well take advantage of it. Druids can wear medium
he knows
armor,
the
and while
fucking
this won't
hacks.
matter while they're in wild shape, since each wild shape has its own armor value, it will matter when they are not. The best medium armor in early access is Lyzel's Githyanki Halfplate or Scale Mail +1. Unfortunately, druids cannot use Githyanki Halfplate or Scale Mail because they are made of metal, so your best bet is to get the Chain Shirt +1, which is not considered metal, in the Shattered Sanctum. Between this and a shield, you can reach 18 total armor class, which is quite good. When it comes to accessories, the Absolute's Talisman works well for this build because the Circle of the Moon Druids will likely be in combat often while using Wild Shape. This allows them to maintain their Wild Shape form and keep on fighting without having to stop to heal. This necklace can be found in the Shattered Sanctum. The Whispering Promise Ring also has a nice synergy since you can heal yourself and it will increase your attack.
Wait. that what the goblins are? Yep.
Rolls by doing so. It's also located in the Shattered Sanctum. Final tips. It's important to remember that even though you may be playing a Circle of the Moon Druid, you do not need to be in Polar Bear form all the time in combat. You cannot cast spells while using Wild Shape, so make sure you cast any spells you want before you transform, because you can use Wild Shape as a bonus action.
That hag's gonna get away.
As Circle of Land Druids in early access, so don't be afraid to fling them away. A lot of what the Druid class has to offer besides the flexibility and spell selection is the utility that different creatures it can shift into provides. For instance, being able to tunnel under a wall or fly over a river, etc. The Druid class really encourages you to think outside the box, so don't be afraid to do so. Remember that your strength, dexterity, and constitution become that of the creature you change into, but your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma do not.
He likes the cat a lot, huh? He keeps hovering over it. He wants to turn into the fucking cat.
It might be a good idea to pump wisdom, intelligence, and charisma for better saving throws while in combat, as well as skill checks.
Wolf was alright.
There is a lot of flexibility
HP on the wolf
Druid,
sucks though.
so play around with what you like. Lastly, remember to plan your party around the type of Druid you wish to play. If you want to be more of a caster, then you might want to sub out Will Gale or Shadowheart. On the other hand, if you plan to be a Polar Bear tank, then maybe you want to swap out Shadowheart or Lysel. Just don't take Shadowheart. Plan accordingly so that you have a good party setup. Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content as we take a look at
video,
classes and
dude.
builds, and be sure to drop by our Twitch.
I like this guy's videos a
In
lot.
this Baldur's Gate 3 build guide,
We're just gonna go through all his builds and the companion shit. I'm just kind of curious.
I'm going to be covering.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not like actively playing the game, but we're just kind of going through and like figuring out like what the fuck. I'm just trying to get ideas what I want to play on my next playthrough. I'm definitely like watching these videos is reinvigorating my want to play the game, so that's a good thing. The second thing is I'm trying to figure out what class and party composition that I'm gonna do on my next playthrough and how I'm gonna do it. I definitely want Will. I definitely want to fuck around with Warlock. I might sit Gale out. Because Gale's a little bit annoying because you have to keep feeding him gear for his chest, but that's whatever. And I really like Factual Life's videos. They're super like
my thief build for early access and showing
condensed and got a lot of fucking information and stuff. So I'll also give him my 2 fucking cents about the class too if I have played it. So like the Druid, cool.
In the first act of the game.
In early access, pretty much he covered everything that possibly is to cover in the Druid. My opinion about the Druid is like if you're gonna play Druid, do Circle of the Moon Druid, the one that allows you to shapeshift into different animals and shit. If you're gonna be a caster Druid, just play a fucking mage. Like
Rogues in Baldur's Gate 3 can become thieves at level 3, and I advise choosing this subclass over the Arcane Trickster in early access if you're new to the game. This is because thieves gain an extra bonus action, and they can use this for shoving, jumping, or even on their cunning action.
I second this.
This allows them to still attack with both their main hand and offhand weapons after taking a bonus action, or get an additional offhand weapon attack if they didn't use a bonus action for anything else. Sneak attack is the bread and butter of the thief, and it can deal incredible damage to enemies under the right circumstances. Circumstances you should be aiming to achieve each and every
extra
round.
bonus attack
I'll
is
explain
amazing.
the exact mechanics of this action a bit later in this guide, but for now let's have a look at character creation. In this section we'll take a look at how to set up your thief during character creation for best results. You don't have to follow this to the letter, and it's likely this will change at full launch of the game. However, this will hold you in good stead during early access. There are some good backgrounds for thief, urchin, charlatan, and criminal. When you think about things you'd want on a thief, these things come to mind, and they have some great skill proficiencies that fit the theme of a rogue. Wood Elves make excellent choice for a thief because they have +2 dexterity and +1 wisdom and proficiency in perception and stealth. They also have dark vision and can't be put to sleep by magic. Drow and Half-Elf are also good considerations, especially if you want to be a cunning thief that can deceive and persuade in dialogues because of the extra point and points into charisma. Thieves gain 4 skills at character creation, which is higher than any other class in early access. They'll have high dexterity, and having some wisdom will not hurt them either in order to gain better rolls on perception. Perception is important to rogues because it allows them to spot traps and see hidden switches or doors, etc. Dexterity has acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth, and wisdom has animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. Of these, you probably want sleight of hand, stealth, insight, and perception for early access. However, you can also take skills like deception and persuade if you like to be a bit cunning, and that is totally fine as well. The main ability for
typically for group composition, you want the person with high wisdom perception in the front to detect traps and like shit in the environment, and then the rogue comes in and disarms the trap, or pickpockets the guy, or opens the locked door, or whatever. Is Arcan the Cruel supposed to be in this game? I don't know who that is. from Baldur's Gate. Oh, dude, you can't throw characters at me from like original Baldur's Gate. I'll fucking Dragonborn Paladin of Tiamat who lived in late 15th century. Is this him? Holy fuck. This website's not gonna rule 30 for me, is it? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Thieves is dexterity.
I don't know. I'm excited. Like, if they told me, like, I'm not exaggerating. I work a 9-to-5 job. If they told me tomorrow that they're gonna open up Baldur's Gate, the city, in early access, I would take tomorrow off from work to fucking. I would call in sick and play the game. Get YouTube chat up here, just like. Yes. Sometimes people throw me shit on YouTube chat.
And damage rolls with ranged and finessed weapons like bows and short swords, as well as boosting their armor class. Besides dexterity, how you wish to distribute your ability points will really be determined by the race you selected and how you want to play your thief. For example, if you want to play a stealthy thief in early access, then your abilities might look something like this. Strength 10, Dexterity 16, Constitution 14, Intelligence 10, Wisdom 16, Charisma 8. However, if you want to play a bit of a stealthy thief that has some good dialogue rolls, it might look something like this. Strength 9, Dexterity 16, Constitution 14, Intelligence 8, Wisdom 14, and Charisma 14. Sneak Attack is a special action that all rogues can use once every turn that boosts their damage tremendously under the right circumstances. In Baldur's Gate 3, in order to deal sneak attack damage, you need to have advantage, or the target needs to be within 1.5 meters of a character it considers an enemy. The easiest ways to gain advantage are from being on high ground, by being in stealth, by being directly behind the target, though there are other ways. However, using sneak attack ranged from elevation or from stealth does not apply sneak attack damage. The only way currently to apply sneak attack damage with sneak attack ranged is by shooting a target that is within 1.5 meters of a character it considers an enemy, whether you have advantage or not. I'm not sure if this is a bug or if it's working as intended, as the description clearly says "or." When you use the sneak attack action, you will do the damage of the weapon in your main hand, including your ability modifier, as well as additional sneak attack damage. The weapon in your offhand is not added to the damage of this action. The formula for calculating your extra sneak attack damage is as follows. 1d6 multiplied by your rogue level minus 1 divided by 2 plus 1. What exactly does this formula mean? It means that at rogue level 3, your sneak attack damage will increase to twice the damage of your d6 roll, and every odd level thereafter this multiplier will increase by a further 1 times. So at level 5 you would deal 3 times your d6 roll in damage, and at level 7 you would do 4 times your d6 roll in damage, etc. Because sneak attack uses your main hand weapon, if you're using a longbow or light crossbow, which use 1d8 for their damage dice, then you'll do slightly more damage than your short sword 1d6 on average.
The Festering Cove, where the fuck is this? I've never done this
This means
fight.
you're better off using sneak attack
Frog
range
people?
when you can, until you take the dual wielder feat at level 4, and can use rapiers 1d8 while dual wielding. The following is the damage calculation for your total sneak attack action, including your main hand damage. Main hand damage roll plus dexterity or strength modifier, whichever is applicable, plus 1d6 times rogue level minus 1 divided by 2 plus 1.
Yeah. You don't need all the fucking math.
At level 2, rogues gain cunning action dash, which can be used once per turn. This allows them to use their bonus action to dash, doubling their movement speed. Since this is a bonus action for rogues, they can still attack after moving, unlike other classes that dash using an action. At level 3, rogues can become thieves, and here they will gain fast hands and second story work. Fast hands allow rogues to use 2 bonus actions every turn, which means 2 offhand attack melees in many cases, really upping their damage. Second story work reduces the fall damage they take, allowing them to jump from higher up, or just protecting them from shoves from high places. At level 4, you'll get a choice of a feat, and I recommend the dual wielder feat in order to gain +1 armor while dual wielding, and also to be...
Oh, he was played by one of the guys, right? The guy with the glasses. I watched Critical Role. Let's see. Or maybe I'm thinking about somebody else. No, one of their guests was playing a dragon, like a half dragonborn female.
Be able to use rapiers in either hand. Rapiers deal 1d8 compared with a 1d6
I haven't watched Critical
of
Role
a
in a
short
while,
sword,
in a hot
so
minute
this will
though.
be a +1 damage upgrade on average, including your offhand if you use one there too. If you favor the longbow, however, you might consider taking ability improvement, as this will increase your hit chance and damage with your bow as well as your main hand, but not your offhand. The equipment you want for this build are a longbow and 2 short swords early on. You cannot dual wield weapons that are not light until you take the dual wielder feat, but once you'll have this, you'll replace your short swords with rapiers for extra damage. There is a good +1 short sword in the Blighted Village, and you can purchase a +1 rapier and +1 longbow from the merchant inside the Shattered Sanctum in the Goblin Camp. For armor, you want studded leather armor, and for accessories, there really aren't that many that are useful to a rogue in early access. However, Amulet of Misty Step can be a godsend for getting to where you need to go with one bonus action, particularly if you need to get up high. Just remember that height does not guarantee sneak attack range damage unless the target is near an enemy. Final tips. Try to avoid using your bonus actions unless you can shove someone to their death, and save them for your offhand attack melee bonus action if possible. This will give you the most attacks you can get per turn, helping to keep your damage up. Always try to create scenarios where you can sneak attack every round if possible. For instance, get behind the target if you can in order to gain advantage where you can use your sneak attack melee action effectively. Just be careful not to take an attack of opportunity while doing this. Remember that even though you don't gain sneak attack damage from elevation when using sneak attack ranged, you do gain advantage, which drastically increases your hit chance. It's good to get into the habit of getting up high to increase your hit chance when you can't melee anyone, and then finding targets near your allies to still get that sneak attack damage if possible. Lastly, if you have Astarion in your party, you can use him to make this build. His ability point spread is a bit different, but it's close enough to get the same concept from a gameplay perspective. However, in his case, it's probably better to take ability improvement and grab dexterity and constitution instead of the dual wielder feat. Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content as we take a look at classes and builds, and next up we're going to have a companion guide. In this Baldur's Gate 3 build guide, I'm going to be covering my wizard build for early access and showing you what I found to work best.
Bill
We'll be doing
Manganello
more
or
build guides at
something?
the launch of Baldur's Gate 3, but for now, let's look at how you can use a wizard effectively in the first act of the game. Wizards in Baldur's Gate 3 choose their School of Magic at level 2. And
Oh,
for early
yeah. Didn't you
access,
do
I
their first
strongly advise
campaign?
taking the Evocation School. This is because in order to regularly gain the arcane
So I started Critical Role season 2. I watched that first before I watched the first season of Critical Role. I tried after like 20 episodes of season 2 Critical Role to go back and watch the first season, and the production value, I think for the first like dozen episodes, like I couldn't push my way through it. You know, like you going from like this nice setup in season 2 with like good audio quality and shit like that, and then you go back to season 1, it's like they're talking on like one of those fucking like old school like Logitech microphones and shit like that.
ward from the Abjuration School, you need to
I don't know
constantly
anything.
cast
I don't know
Abjuration
too much about
spells.
season 1. I just seen like
Abjuration spells
highlights
do
and
not
shit
need
like
to be
that.
cast all that often, and even then, the ward you gain is not overly strong. This means you might as well take Evocation, even if you don't need its passive benefit of guaranteeing allies passing saving throws when hit by your Evocation
Dude, what a
spells
good
all that
looking
often.
dude. Fuck.
Wizards can also gain spells from
He was
magic
on a
scrolls, allowing them
what
to
was that
learn
TV
spells
show? I
that they
forget.
wouldn't normally gain, making them incredibly versatile. Like the Guiding Bolt spell from Cleric, find a Guiding Bolt scroll and have your wizard learn it. It costs a bit of gold
Got a
each
face
time,
for
but what's a
TV.
little gold if you can cast nearly any spell in early access?
Hold on, I
In this
totally
section, we'll
missed
take
that
a
he's
look at
talking
how to set
about
up your
Guiding
wizard during
Bolt.
character creation,
Wait,
and
what?
the ward you gain is not overly strong. This means you might as well take Evocation, even if you don't need its passive benefit of guaranteeing allies passing saving throws when hit by your Evocation spells all that often. Wizards can also gain spells from magic scrolls, allowing them to learn spells that they wouldn't normally gain, making them incredibly versatile.
Oh, Evocation's
Like the
good.
Guiding
I
Bolt
cast
spell from
Shatter a
Cleric,
shit
find
ton as a
Guiding Bolt
wizard.
scroll and have your wizard learn it. It costs a bit of gold each time, but what's a little gold if you can cast nearly any spell in early access? In this section, we'll take a look at how to set up your wizard during character creation for best results. You don't have to follow this to the letter, and it's likely this will change at full launch of the game. However, this will hold you in good stead during
Magic
early
Mike?
access.
Oh, I didn't see
For
Magic
background, I
Mike.
suggest taking any that provides
think he
you
was in,
intelligence
like-
skills, since wizards need
I think he was in the Vampire show, right? Bill Manganello. True Blood. He was in 6 seasons of True Blood. That's what I know him from. Magic Mike. Yeah, you're right. That's funny. Pee-wee's Big Holiday? What the hell?
a good amount of this ability to hit targets with their spells. These are Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, and Religion. Race is not overly important for this class since you can use the item Warped Headband of Intellect to gain 18 Intelligence. This means it's not absolutely vital to pick a race with added Intelligence in early access. However, any race with added Dexterity is good for Armor class. Drow not only has this, but also has superior Dark Vision. This allows them to see in the dark exceptionally well, improving their hit chance in low lighting places like the Underdark, so they are a solid choice. Another great pick is also Strongheart Halfling for the poison resistance, and I will explain why throughout this guide. For skills again, it's not
No,
super
he's not
important, but you'll have
Deathstroke.
high dexterity and intelligence.
Oh. You mean Deathstroke in Justice League? There's a dude, I'm thinking of the dude who played Deathstroke in Arrow, the TV show. I'm like, he's not that guy. But oh, okay, I see it. Cool. Him and the dude from Arrow look the same. So like, just save this image of him in your brain, right? And then this guy. They look very similar, which is kind of funny.
So selecting skills that fall under these abilities is ideal. Dexterity has acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth, and I've already listed what intelligence skills there are. Wizards need intelligence to improve their spellcasting ability modifier, which increases the successfulness of their spells. However, as I mentioned just a moment ago, you can gain the Warped Headband of Intellect rather quickly in early access, about 2 hours in. This means they don't have to invest into intelligence during
Wait, where the
character
fuck do you get that
creation, and
Headband of Intellect? I don't even think I've found that. Blighted Village? Where though? Where the ogres are? Have I ever gone into this house?
Tastes like chicken. No.
You mean the other white meat?
It's dinner time, boys.
Oh, if you kill them right off the bat. Oh, okay. I always talk them into helping me and get their horn that summons them. Oh, that's what makes the fucking ogre smart, is the Headband of Intellect? Oh, no fucking way. That's cool.
instead invest into dexterity and constitution
I
for
didn't
extra
know that.
armor and hit points.
I never defeated
Wizards
them
will be a bit weak until
like
they
that.
gain this item, but 2 hours of a 25-hour act is worth the trade-off, I think. Obviously, in the live version of the game, this may change, and you will likely be better off taking intelligence during character creation. Your ability spread should look something like this. Strength 10, Dexterity 17, Constitution 15, Intelligence 8, Wisdom 10, Charisma 14.
Oh, fuck.
For character creation, you'll be given
the fucking absolute min-max, because he knows he's gonna get fucking 18 on intellect, so he just goes balls deep into not having it.
Spells, but you'll have to
intellect?
choose which to prepare.
Holy shit.
You can only cast your cantrips and prepared spells. Otherwise, if you wish to use your other spells that are not prepared, you must prepare them first. Every time you level up as a wizard,
Billy
you'll be able to
Madison?
prepare more and more spells.
Oh yeah, the Bruins. Bruins are my favorite team. My number one sport that I like is
There are some
hockey, and
excellent
I'm a
wizard
big
cantrips to
Boston
choose
Bruins
from during
fan. So.
character creation, and I highly recommend Acid Splash, Dancing Lights, and either Firebolt or Ray of Frost. Acid Splash has a small AoE effect, which is nice for hitting multiple enemies. Dancing Lights is great for creating light, so your party members who don't have
I have a
can see and
shit
hit things
ton
more
of
easily in dark places.
Boston Bruins
And
hockey
Firebolt and
jerseys.
Ray
I
of
think I
Frost
have
are just
about.
good at dealing damage. Arcane
I
Recovery
think I have
allows
like
you
4
once per day
here
to
and
recover
2 at my
either 2
parents'
level
house.
1 spell slots or 1 level 2 spell slot in early access. So use this when you need to eke out another cast or 2 before resting.
Which is actually funny
Toss some
because I
actions
don't
to
have
try
a
to do
white
this outside
jersey
of
like
combat
Adam
if
Sandler does
possible.
in Happy Gilmore.
Some wizard spells require concentration in order to remain active. You can tell which these are because it will say on the spell itself. Concentration can be broken if you cast another spell that requires concentration. So for example, if you
So in 5e, there's like a Warcaster allows
on
to
an
like gives
enemy,
you advantage
then
on
you
a
cast
concentration
protection from
checks.
Good and evil, you will stop concentrating on Witch Bolt and begin concentrating on protection from good and evil. But that is not the only way concentration can be broken. If you take damage while concentrating on a spell, then you must make a Constitution saving throw, and if you fail, then the effect of that spell ends. Should you succeed in your saving throw, however, then you maintain your concentration and the spell continues. This is why it's important for wizards to have Constitution, because they have spells that require concentration and they are wasted if it is constantly broken. Wizards have a large variety of spells, so it can be difficult to choose which to use. A few I highly recommend are Magic Missile, Mage Armor, and Thunder Wave. Magic Missile cannot be protected against, cannot miss, and you can select up to 3 targets. This makes it very useful when you need to finish off a low health enemy but still hit your primary target, or when you cannot hit the enemy with another spell easily. Mage Armor is semi-permanent and will stay with you until you long rest.
Yeah,
Between
Mage
your
Armor is
dexterity
legit.
modifier in this spell, you should have 16 armor on your wizard.
I didn't fuck around
which
with
isn't
Magic
too
Missile.
shabby
I
for
probably
level
should
1.
have, though.
Thunderwave is an excellent AoE that can knock enemies backwards, often to their death.
Thunderwave's good.
Once you hit level 2, you won't damage your party members caught in its blast either, making a larger case to take it. Its one drawback is its rather short range. At level 2, you'll get to choose your subclass, and I've already made my case for why you should take Evocation School already. Additionally, you'll gain another level 1 spell slot, and you can choose 2 more spells to learn. At level 3, you'll gain another level 1 spell slot, 2 level 2 spell slots, and you'll gain access to level 2 wizard spells. There are a lot of great spells here, and if you didn't pick Drow for your race, I highly recommend taking Dark Vision to keep your spells accurate in low light areas. Scorching Ray is also an incredibly good spell that can hit up to 3 targets, or deal a ton of damage to one, giving you more versatility. I also really like the Shatter spell because it's a rather large AoE and can be devastating in fights where there are a lot of enemies. Misty Step is great for getting up high where spells that count as ranged.
So, Scorching Ray is like Magic Missile, but with fire, and it deals more damage. It's three rays. It's very good. It deals more damage. Shatter, he was talking about, it makes like a circle area that you can cast at a distance, and it does like I think 3d6 force damage, which is really good too.
Attacks gain advantage.
I use Shatter
Ray
a
of Sickness
shit
is one
ton
of
when
these
I
spells,
when I
and
played
it's a big
Gale.
reason why it's so great, as I'll explain in a moment. I highly recommend that you save before taking this level up and then play around with some of the spells to see what you like, and then reload if you don't like them. Once you reach level 3, you'll also be able to cast some level 1 spells as level 2 versions using level 2 spell slots instead of level 1 spell slots.
This is Scorching
This works
Ray
out
right here.
tremendously for this build because it allows you to cast some of the better level 1 spells as more powerful versions. For instance, you can cast Thunderwave at level 2 for an extra 1 to 8 damage. Or you can cast Magic Missile at level 2 and it shoots an extra projectile. At level 4, you'll gain another level 2 spell slot as well as another cantrip and 2 more spells. Additionally, you can pick a feat, and I highly recommend taking Ability Improvement to get Constitution to 16 and Dexterity to 18. This will help with your HP and your armor class, making you harder to kill.
The reason I'm like super nitpicky with Wizard, because this is my main that I play in Dungeons and Dragons is a Wizard, so.
You'll be at an 18 intelligence at this point, but you cannot increase it because the headband sets the total to 18 no matter what the actual value is.
Yeah, it's actually, I learning about that fucking headband that sets your intelligence to 18, and then he just like, fuck it, as a wizard, you're gonna start with 8 intelligence. In early access, you can totally get away with that, but in like the grand scheme of things in the game, there's gonna be events. Once like the complete game comes out, there's definitely gonna be fucking events where they're gonna take your gear and shit. So you're gonna be a wizard with fucking 8 intelligence trying to get yourself out of like a really difficult situation.
Of all the builds I've made so far, equipment plays a much larger part in this build than any other.
It's just funny.
Hopefully it will give you a small glimpse of what sort of things you might be able to do at live release. For your weapon, you'll want to use the Staff of Crones once you get it. At first glance, the staff doesn't seem all that great since it appears only to allow you to cast the spell Ray of Sickness.
I think that's the staff
However, you
from
get to
the
cast
Hag
the spell without
layer.
using a spell slot, effectively giving you a 2 to 16 damage cantrip every turn. This is a reliable amount of damage, but there is a catch. You'll take 2 to 8 damage every time you use this spell, which is where the poison resistance comes in handy. If you didn't take Strongheart Halfling during character creation, you'll need the Ring of Poison Resistance to help nullify half of this damage, saving you valuable HP. This can be found inside the inner area of the Goblin Camp, just before where you rescue Haslin. Note that the damage prevented is rounded up, not down, so if you would take 3 poison damage, you will only take 1 instead of 2. For Necklace, you'll want the Sapphire Spark as soon as you can get to Ebon Lake Grotto in the Underdark.
Damn,
This
he's
necklace is
min-maxing with
sold
the
by
gear and
Blurry
shit
adds
too,
1
huh?
to 4
When a wearer casts Magic Missile, each dart of force deals an additional 1d4 psychic. Wait, where the
psychic
fuck do you
damage
get
to
this?
each magic missile. Yes, you heard that right. This means the magic missile spell will go from dealing 6 to 15 damage to 9 to 27 damage at level 1, and 8 to 20 damage to 12 to 36 damage at level 2, and it can't miss. Wizards do not have armor proficiency, so you'll be wearing clothing damage to 9.
Sapphire Spark. I don't know where half. I don't know where half this shit is. Oh, it's in the Underdark. Merchant Blurg? Oh, this fucker? Okay. He's the guy who works with the Mind Flare in the Underdark.
8 to 20 damage to 12 to 36 damage at level 2, and
They're
it
in a
can't
cult.
miss. Wizards do not have armor proficiency, so you'll be wearing clothing when playing one unless you chose a race that provides armor proficiency. Make sure that you do not use armor you are not proficient with, or you will not be able to cast spells. Prisoner's Robe, which adds 1 to 4 damage to any poison spell the wearer casts, would be great for this build. However, it does not consider the Ray of Sickness cast from the staff a spell since it does not use up a spell slot, and so does not provide the increased 1 to 4 damage. However, Ray of Sickness will benefit from the Prisoner's Robe when casting it normally, so if you have the robe, consider slotting the spell itself. Lastly, if you didn't invest in intelligence during character creation, then you'll need the Warped Headband.
I found a rare robe that increases like elemental resistance or some shit like that. It's better than that one.
Intellect to get your intelligence to 18. If you did invest, then you'll not need this item. Final tips. The Staff of Crone seems to apply spellcasting modifiers of intelligence, charisma, and wisdom, whichever is the modifier of the class. This means it works on any spellcasting character, and can work on warlocks, rangers, clerics, and even eldritch knights in early access. You can use this setup on Gale if you bring him along in your party, you just won't get quite as much effectiveness because of his ability spread. Or you can use the staff on Shadowheart to give her a decent spell to cast every turn. Her damage is usually poor, so this can really boost it. I don't recommend using it on Will as much because Eldritch Blast already does significant damage and does not need any items to make it more effective. Remember that not all spells make use of high ground, and only those that operate as ranged attacks do so. If a spell uses an ability saving throw to defend, then you don't gain advantage from casting spells from elevation. Keep this in mind and plan accordingly. Lastly, don't forget that you can learn spells from scrolls. Save these and give them to your wizard so that it has all the spells in early access that you want. Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content as we take a look at classes and builds.
Fuck, I wish Gale had Dark Vision.
In this Baldur's Gate 3 build guide, I'm going to be covering my Cleric build for early access and showing you what I found to work best. I'll be doing more build guides at the launch of Baldur's Gate 3, but for now, let's
I don't know shit about clerics.
Effectively in the first act of the game. Clerics in Baldur's Gate 3.
This is how much I know about clerics, right? I had no idea that Shadowheart had like inflict wounds or whatever, and it's literally like one of the best spells in early access that cleric can be casting.
Choose their
it's pretty
domain
funny.
during character creation.
4d10
I'm going to be
for
showing
level
my
2.
light domain
Like...
setup. The reason I chose light domain is that I wanted to make a cleric that could deal good damage and still have some support spells, and light domain does a decent job of this. However, you can make this build for the most part using other domains in early access, but you will miss out on a couple of really strong spells. Still, the concept is basically the same. The problem with clerics in early access is that their go-to cantrip for damage, Sacred Flame, has a terrible hit chance a large portion of the time. So unlike warlocks who use Eldritch Blast and wizards who use something like Firebolt, clerics have no reliable way to deal damage with spells every round unless they use their spell slots. Because of this, they can end up in situations where they have no spells left to cast, limiting their damage output. The solution to this problem is focusing on strength or dexterity in order to gain some reliable damage and hit chance when using your weapons. Of the 3 spellcasting classes in early access, clerics will rely much more on their weapons for damage than either warlocks or wizards. For this build, I chose to focus on dexterity for better armor class and to make my cleric almost exclusively ranged. However, you can choose strength if you wish, though this will regulate you to melee, and I found it to be less effective on average in early access, but this may not be the case.
Yeah, if you're gonna do like a strength-based cleric, that's not gonna work in early access. Just because you can't get to a high enough level where it starts to pay off, or you can't get like appropriate gear where it pays off. But that is such a thing, like having a melee cleric.
Case at live release. In this section, we'll take a look at
range
how to
is
set up
relatively
character and
strong in
character
this game
creation for best results. You don't have to follow this to the letter, and it's likely that it will change at full launch of the game. However, this will hold you in good stead during early access. Which background you choose is not particularly important, but you will have a lot of wisdom, so selecting a background that affects wisdom skills is a good choice.
Perception.
Wisdom skills are animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. The race I like most for this build is Wood Elf because it provides dexterity and wisdom while also providing the longbow proficiency. If you don't have this proficiency, your range damage with weapons is going to suffer a bit because you'll be regulated to a short bow, but it's still doable. However, if you're playing a strength cleric that melees instead, Ghoul Dwarf is a solid choice. It has extra HP and provides bonuses to Constitution and Wisdom, both valuable to clerics. For skills, again, it's not super important what you pick, but you'll have high dexterity and wisdom, so selecting skills that fall under these abilities is ideal. Dexterity has acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth, and I've already listed what wisdom skills there are. Abilities needed for this build are dexterity, since we're going to focus on bow combat when not casting, and it also provides extra armor class, and constitution for health, and to help with concentration, which I will explain in the next section. Wisdom is also needed to make good use of your offensive spells, so you want to invest heavily here.
Concentration is important.
Should look something like this: Strength 10, Dexterity 16, Constitution 14, Intelligence 8, Wisdom 16, Charisma 10. This will allow you to hit for decent damage with your bow, as well as connect with your spells.
Dumb cleric.
During character creation, you'll be given many spells, but you'll have to choose which to prepare. You can only cast your cantrips, prepared spells, and spells that are part of your light domain. Otherwise, if you wish to use your other spells that are not prepared, you must prepare them and then long rest. You gain Fairy Fire and Burning Hands for being a light domain cleric at level 1, so you never have to prepare these. Cantrips are essentially level 0 spells you can cast at will, and they don't take up spell slots, so you have infinite uses while still allowing you to cast your other cleric spells. Sacred Flame is your damage-dealing cantrip, and it generally has terrible accuracy because it targets the dexterity of enemies, not their armor class like weapon attacks or Guiding Bolt, and enemies typically have more dexterity than armor in early access. However, it can be used without line of sight, so this is a major plus. The Guidance cantrip is also worth grabbing because it can be used before lockpicking or dialogues to help influence the outcomes by adding 1 to 4 to your rolls. However, please note that it has concentration and will overwrite any other spell you are concentrating on. Many cleric spells like Bless, Bane, Fairy Fire, etc. require concentration to keep the effect active. Concentration can be broken if you cast another spell that requires concentration. So for example, if you cast Shield of Faith, which gives +2 armor, and then you cast the Guidance cantrip, you'll stop concentrating on Shield of Faith and begin concentrating on Guidance, losing the +2. Concentrating on a spell, then you must. That's why it is important for clerics to have Constitution, because they have a lot of spells that require Constitution. This drastically reduces the chance they will be broken. Clerics of the Light Domain also gain the added benefit of Warding Flare, which allows them once per round to impose disadvantage on an enemy attack. This drastically reduces the chance they will be struck, allowing them to maintain concentration a bit more easily. Spells you'll definitely want for this build at level 1 are Guiding Bolt and Healing Word. Guiding Bolt hits like a truck, dealing between 4 to 24 damage if it connects, and targets the enemy's armor class much like a weapon attack. And just like ranged weapon attack, if you're threatened in combat and an enemy is too close to you, your accuracy will be reduced heavily, so you need to move or jump out of range to improve your hit chance. This is one of the reasons this build is ranged, as it's much harder to connect with Guiding Bolt while in melee. Add Inflict Wounds if you went Strength, as it does even more damage than Guiding Bolt, and is treated like a melee attack, meaning its accuracy is not penalized when enemies are nearby. Healing Word allows you to heal 1 to 4 HP plus your level as a bonus action. What's really great about this spell is that it will pick up downed party members if cast on them, just like any healing spell, and it can do so from 18 meters away. This allows you to use it and another spell in the same turn, winning. Beyond these two spells, Bless is not a bad choice, as it allows you to buff the attack rolls of your party members as long as you maintain concentration. Command Halt is also a strong spell, but you may find you need it a bit more later on in early access than at the beginning, where killing things faster is the secret to success. Bane can prevent your party from taking damage, and since enemies need to hit you in order to break your concentration, this can be a particularly good combination. You'll gain Burning Hands and Fairy Fire as domain spells, so you can always use these. Burning Hands is a solid conal AoE that has a rather short range, so you may not use it that often, since for this build you'll be ranging enemies down. However, if you're playing a Strength Cleric, then you'll likely use this one fairly often. Fairy Fire is a very strong range, so you may not use it that often.
Right here, so he's aiming, what's fucking funny, I do this all the fucking time too. He's aiming the Flaming Hands away from Gale right here, and just to hit the spider, but the web that they're standing on is flammable, and it fucking hits everyone.
Often, since for this build you'll be ranging enemies down. However, if you're playing a Strength Cleric, then you'll likely use this one fairly often.
I do that shit all the time.
Fairy Fire is a very strong spell that gives your party advantage on all attack rolls against targets marked with it, which means they get to roll their d20 2 times and use the higher of the two values to see if their attacks hit or miss. This is a huge boost, but you must maintain concentration to keep this effect active, so use it wisely. At level 2, you'll gain an additional level 1 spell slot, allowing you to cast one more level 1 spell before you must long rest to replenish them. And you'll increase the number of spells you can prepare from 3 to 5, allowing you more options while on the landscape and in combat. You will also gain 2 Channel Divinity actions, Turn Undead, which all clerics get, and one specific to your cleric subclass. Light Domain clerics gain the Radiance of the Dawn action, which allows them to do 2 to 20, plus their level and damage to all enemies within 9 meters of them once per day. This is a staggering amount of damage in many cases, and while it's easier to hit more targets as a melee character, 2 to 20 plus their level and damage to all enemies within 9 meters of them once per day. This is a staggering amount of damage in many cases, and while it's easier to hit more targets as a melee character, it still works really well when playing ranged. Just remember to use it when you can hit 3 or more enemies, and don't be afraid to move first to get as many in range as possible. At level 3, you'll gain another level 1 spell slot, as well as 2 level 2 spell slots. Light Domain Clerics also gain Dark Vision, Scorching Ray, Aid, and Lesser Restoration as domain spells that never need to be prepared. Dark Vision is a great way to keep your hit chance up in dark places, or to make another party member have the same benefit. It is semi-permanent once cast, only being removed upon long rest. Scorching Ray allows you to deal 2 to 12 fire damage to up to 3 targets, or deal 6 to 36 fire damage to a single target. It's an incredibly powerful spell, it has lots of versatility, and is one of the better reasons to take Light Domain in early access. Once you reach level 3, you'll also be able to cast some level 1 spells as level 2 versions using level 2 spell slots instead of level 1 spell slots. This works out tremendously for this build because it allows you to cast some of the better level 1 spells as more powerful versions. For instance, Guiding Bolt when cast as a level 2 spell will deal 5 to 30 instead of 4 to 24 damage. Bless at level 2 will affect 4 targets instead of 3. Healing Word will heal you for 2 to 8 plus your level instead of 1 to up to 4 level 1 spell slots and 3 level 2 spell slots. You'll also be able to prepare more spells and you'll gain an additional cantrip. You'll also gain a feat, and here we'll select the Ability Improvement feat, placing both points into Wisdom. This will give your spells a total of +6 added to their rolls between your Wisdom modifier +4 and your Proficiency +2, making it even more likely you will hit your target. You could also place the points instead into Constitution for more HP and +1 to your Constitution saving throws, which helps with concentration as well. Either choice is fine. For weapons, you'll want to try to get a longbow as soon as you can, and there is one for sale in the Druid Grove. You'll want a short sword and studded shield in your melee slot because short swords use dexterity for their attack and damage rolls. And the shield will help protect you during the enemy's turn.
Wait, why do you want a short?
You'll want a short sword and studded shield in your melee slot because short swords use dexterity for their attack and damage rolls. And the shield will help protect you during the enemy's turn.
Oh, this is for the range cleric.
Shoot with your bow or cast a spell, then swap to your short sword and shield before ending your turn for an extra 2 armor class. For armor, you'll be using medium armor, and the best there is in early access is Scale Mail +1 or Githyanki's Half Plate, Lysel's armor. Use either of these to hit 17 armor and 19 armor when your shield is out. Herbalist Gloves remove poison when you heal poison friendlies, which is nice once you reach the Underdark. Broodmother's Revenge is also excellent as it adds poison to your weapon whenever you're healed. Use Healing Word on yourself, then poison things with your bow. Profit. Final tips. You gain advantage when using Guiding Bolt, Scorching Ray, or attacking with your bow from elevation, so make sure to get up high at the beginning of combat for improved accuracy. Sacred Flame, Burning Hands, and Radiance of the Dawn do not gain any benefit from elevation, so if you plan to use these on your turn, then you don't need to worry about this. Dark Vision can be cast outside of combat, so if you know you're going to be fighting in a very dark area, then you can pre-cast it on party members that might need it. This saves you turns in combat to attack or cast other spells, rather than buffing for several turns. Or if you just want to see better while exploring in dark places, it's not a bad idea. I have not added Cure Wounds here, though it is quite a strong spell in the right hands. This is mostly because it has a very short range, 1.5 meters, but also because it is a much better use of an action when used by a Life Domain Cleric, who adds an automatic +3 to its healing. Healing potions or food are a bonus action and can be used in its stead, allowing for an attack or spell in the same round. However, if you do decide to use it, I strongly recommend only using the level 2 version to gain even more healing from a single action. This will heal for 6 to 20 at level 4. Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content as we take a look at classes and builds, and be sure
There's a lot
to
of
drop by our
cleric
Twitch
shit in
channel
there
if you
that I
have
didn't know
more
about.
questions about the game. In this Baldur's Gate 3 build guide, I'm going to be covering my Hunter build. Level 3 and Colossal Slayer is determined. This works with full health target passive. Colossus Slayer will provide an extra 1 to 8 damage to any. In this Baldur's Gate 3 build guide, I'm going to be covering my Hunter build for early access and showing you what I found to work best. I'll be doing more build guides at launch.
I gave up on Hunter playthrough. I wasn't having fun with it, and I ended up changing to like
first act of the game. Rangers can become hunters at level 3 in Baldur's Gate 3, and when they do, they gain the choice of a powerful passive. Colossus Slayer will provide an extra 1 to 8 damage to any target they hit with a weapon attack. Since the damage from the attack is calculated before Colossal Slayer is determined, this works with full health targets, even though the description makes it seem as though it does not. This allows hunters to deal incredible damage every round without expending any resources. Hunter's Mark is a spell that does nearly the same thing as Colossus Slayer, but rolls slightly less damage, 1 to 6, and the target must die somewhat quickly, or you will not be able to reapply it for free. While this isn't particularly hard to do, sometimes you need to jump to get to places where you can get advantage using your bonus action. You cannot then cast Hunter's Mark and miss out on the damage. Using Colossus Slayer, you solve this problem as well as free up an additional spell slot for something else. If these two things stack together, it would be an amazing combo, but sadly, they do not. Additionally, you cannot use Ensnaring Shot on a target that is marked, or you will remove the mark because both spells require concentration. This means if you're using Hunter's Mark and speak with animals, you almost have no need for Wisdom, and you'll only have one spell left you can choose from that might use it. In this section, we'll take a look at how to set up your Hunter creation for best results. You don't have to follow this to the letter, and it's likely this will change at full launch of the game. However, this will hold you in good stead during early access. Which background you choose is not particularly important, but you'll have a lot of wisdom, so selecting a background that affects wisdom skills is a good choice. Wisdom skills are animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. The races I like for this build are Wood Elf, Strongheart, Halfling, and Human. Wood Elves can reach 17 dexterity, they gain proficiency with perception, they have dark vision, they gain proficiency with stealth, and they also gain +1 wisdom. This makes them the clear favorite for a ranger. Strongheart Halflings can reach 17 dexterity as well, but also gain lucky, allowing them to reroll attack rolls when they roll a 1. They also resist poison and gain 1 constitution. Humans have an all-around good stat spread, and while not as good as the previous 2 races, I think a lot of people like to roleplay as a human ranger. Additionally, they can still reach 16 in dexterity and wisdom during character creation, which is good if you plan to use spells that they benefit from, like Cure Wounds or Hail of Thorns. For skills, again, it's not super important, but you'll have high dexterity and wisdom, so selecting skills that fall under these abilities is ideal. Dexterity has acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth, and I've already listed what wisdom skills there are. Abilities needed for this build are dexterity, since we're going to focus on bow combat, and constitution for HP to help with concentration. Wisdom is also needed to make good use of some offensive spells, so you want to invest here. Your abilities should look something like this: Strength 10, Dexterity 16, Constitution 14, Intelligence 8, Wisdom 16, Charisma 10. Which favorite enemy you take is not particularly important for this build, but I give you some suggestions here. If you plan to use Ensnaring Strike, then you'll want to take Bounty Hunter to make it harder to escape. If not, take Sanctified Stalker. True Strike just isn't as good as it sounds, and you don't need heavy armor with such a large investment in dexterity. When it comes to the passives here, I suggest either Beast Tamer if you plan to use a Starion in your party, or a Urban Tracker if you don't wish to use him. Beast Tamer will let you summon a familiar that can assist you in combat, and Urban Tracker will give you proficiency with Thieves' Tools, which helps to lockpick more efficiently. At level 2, you're going to gain 2 spells and 2 spell slots. Here you should take Speak with Animals and either Ensnaring Strike or Hail of Thorns. Ensnaring Strike allows you to restrain a target, dealing damage each turn if they can't make a saving throw, and Hail of Thorns allows you a high damage shot that also AoEs a small amount. Speak with Animals is self-explanatory. You will also gain a powerful passive here, and for this build I suggest Archery for +2 to your attack rolls with ranged weapons. This will add a total of +7 to your attack rolls and +8 at level 4, which I believe is the highest you can achieve for any class in early access without using Bless. At level 3, your ranger can take the Hunter subclass, and you'll get to choose one of 3 passive abilities. They're all pretty good, but for this build we're going to take Colossus Slayer to get that increased damage with every weapon attack you do. Horde Breaker has such a small range that you almost never get to use it, and it's just easier not to worry about managing Hunter's Mark, especially if you're a new player. At this level you'll get to choose a 3rd ranger spell, and you should decide if you want Ensnaring Strike, Hail of Thorns, or Cure Wounds. If you're not running with a cleric in your party, you may want to take Cure Wounds, but you can choose whichever you like.
Cure Wounds is
Hunter
tight.
level 4, you'll gain 2
Hunter
ability points to place into Dexterity, bringing it to 18 and your modifier to +4. This will not only increase the likelihood of your connecting with your attacks, but also you can find a longbow +1 a bit later in the game, which is even better. For melee weapons, you can dual wield any finesse weapons that you want, but short swords are not a bad option. You're not going to use these often, but sometimes you'll need to melee or face disadvantage on your bow attacks. For armor, you can use studded leather armor, as this will accommodate your entire dexterity modifier and will give you a total armor, and this will give you 17 armor. For accessories, you can use the Amulet of Misty Step, which will allow you to teleport to any location that you can see.
There's only one Misty Step amulet though. He's recommended it for multiple characters.
Allow you to roll your d20 twice using the
I
best
see what
of 2
I know what
rolls.
he's saying.
Or you can use Broodmother's
Get your
Revenge
hunter
for
into
further
position.
poison damage when you're healed. Beastmaster's Chain is also not a bad choice if you didn't take the Animal Friendship spell. Final tips. Use Ensnaring Strike on enemies that you need to keep in place and ones that are particularly dangerous. Remember that you need to maintain concentration to keep up the effect, so try to avoid taking damage and try to remain far from melee enemies. If you get hit, this effect will end if you cannot make a Constitution saving throw. You can use Hail of Thorns on a single target to get an additional 1 to 10 damage, and you don't have to use it as an AoE. Just make sure not to hit your companions with it, because even saves still take damage. Lastly, remember that even though you're using a bow to attack, if you're dual wielding in your melee slot, you will gain the offhand attack melee bonus action. This can allow you to move in and finish off a target if you didn't deal enough damage with your bow. Just be careful not to stay in melee range if possible, because you have disadvantage with ranged weapon attacks while threatened in melee combat. Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content as we take a look at classes and builds and be. In this Baldur's Gate 3 build guide, I'm going to be covering my Eldritch Knight build for early access and showing you what I found to work best. I'll be doing more build guides at the launch of Baldur's Gate 3, but for now,
Kinda interested in this
let's
one
look
too.
at how you can use an Eldritch
I'm
Knight
not too familiar with
effectively in the first half of the
fighters,
game.
although a lot of people in my
Fighters can become
groups
Eldritch
play
Knights at
fighters.
level 3 in Baldur's Gate 3, and when they do, they gain access to some wizard spells. In early access, they will only be able to gain a maximum of 3 level 1 spells, which isn't a huge amount. However, these can be used to hit targets from far away or do devastating AoE attacks when in melee range. Probably the biggest upside of playing an Eldritch Knight in early access compared to a Battle Master is the ability to use Magic Missile, which can't miss. Magic Missile is one of the most OP spells you can get in early access because things like low lighting don't affect your hit chance with this spell, nor can the target save or use their armor class to protect them. Additionally, you can choose up to 3 targets with it, allowing you to finish off low HP enemies while still dealing damage against your primary target. In this section, we'll take a look at how to set up your Eldritch Knight during character creation for best results. You don't have to follow this to the letter, and it's likely this will change at full launch of the game. However, this will hold you in good stead during early access. What background you choose here isn't super important since strength only benefits athletics and constitution has no skills related to it. However, taking a background that boosts intelligence skills is not a bad idea. These are Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, and Religion. There are 2 really good races for Eldritch Knight that I can recommend for early access, and those are Shield Dwarf and Githyanki. Shield Dwarves will allow you to gain 17 Strength and 17 Constitution, which means that when you hit level 4, you can have 18 in both of these, which is fantastic. Githyanki will allow you to get to 17 in Strength easily and increase your Intelligence, allowing you to get to 16 here. They also have a lot more options when it comes to skills. The choice is up to you, but you don't really need much intelligence during character creation for your Eldritch Knight in early access, and I'll explain why in the abilities section. For skills, you can take any you want that are available to you, but you should try to match these to your abilities. Again, intelligence-based skills work well, as do dexterity ones if you have some points into dexterity. These are acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth. You're not likely to use stealth much as an Eldritch Knight, so I suggest acrobatics or sleight of hand if you want dex-based skills. Eldritch Knights need strength for their attack and damage rolls with melee weapons, they need constitution to give them a large HP pool, and they need intelligence to increase the likelihood that their spells will connect. However, there are a couple things about early access that change how one might build their Eldritch Knight for early access only. First, the limited pool of spells means that you're either going to cast Magic Missile, an AoE Konos spell like Burning Hands, or some sort of buff like Expeditious Retreat. Of those 3 things, only Burning Hands requires intelligence to be effective, and it has limited application. This, of course, doesn't take into account what cantrips you acquire, and if those are offensive, then intelligence becomes much more valuable to your Eldritch Knight. Second, you can gain an item about 5 hours or so into early access that, when equipped, sets the intelligence of the character to 18.
You beeline for that shit.
This item is called the Warped Headband of Intellect and is dropped by the Ogre Mage in the Blighted Village. Once you have this, any and all ability points invested in intelligence will become worthless. And third, I have not found any heavy armor in early access that provides more protection than Lysel's Githyanki Halfplate, which allows you up to +2 dexterity bonus. This means that investing points into dexterity is worth it for Eldritch Knight in early access, though this may not be the case at live release. To summarize, assuming you took the Shield Dwarf, your abilities would be 17 Strength, 14 Dexterity, 17 Constitution, 8 Intelligence, 10 Wisdom, and 8 Charisma. You're aiming for 18 Strength, 14 Dexterity, 18 Con, and 18 Int with the headband at level 4. At level 2, your fighter will gain Action Surge once per rest that will allow you to take a second action. This is extremely powerful, and you should use it when you know you can hit something, or to burst down a deadly target quickly. Save it for when you need it. You will also get to choose 1 passive from a pool of 6 that will affect your fighter's style of play. You can pick an offensive one or a defensive one, but the only one you shouldn't choose is archery since you won't be using your bow much once you become an Eldritch Knight. When you become an Eldritch Knight at fighter level 3, you'll get to select some wizard spells. First, you'll get to choose
Maybe I'll be
2
a
cantrips,
fighter.
and
I
these
didn't even
have
think
a
about
variety
it.
of effects. However, I strongly suggest you select at least 1 long range one for those times you cannot reach enemies, because when you are close up, you will melee more often than not, making close range spells a bit redundant. Some good choices are Acid Splash, Chill Touch, Firebolt, or Ray of Frost. Additionally, it's not a bad idea to take the Dancing Lights cantrip either, since it allows you to create light, which can help with your hit chance in dark places. Then you'll get to pick 2 of 6 wizard spells, and here I highly suggest you take Magic Missile and an AoE Konos spell like Burning Hands or Thunderwave. Witchbolt is also not a bad option because it does damage more than once if you maintain concentration. Concentration may be interrupted if you're struck,
I like
but you will make a
Thunderwave.
Constitution saving throw if so, and fighters have proficiency in
What the fuck is going on with that
Constitution
whip?
saving throws, as well as high Constitution. This means that you should be able to maintain concentration more easily than some other classes or builds, as long as you aren't completely surrounded by enemies that will attack you. Then you'll get to pick 1 of 17 wizard spells, and here I recommend either Expeditious Retreat or Featherfall. Expeditious Retreat will allow you to make dash a bonus action, doubling your movement range and still allowing you to attack. This can allow you to get to enemies more easily. Featherfall negates fall damage, so if you jump off a high cliff onto enemies below, you'll take no damage. Either are good choices. Once you hit level 4, which is max level for early access, you'll gain an additional spell. Here I suggest taking either Thunder Wave or Burning Hands, whichever you didn't take before, or Witch Bolt for some versatility. You'll also gain an extra spell slot so you can cast one more spell. Then you'll get to choose your feat, and here you'll take ability improvement in order to place 1 point into strength and another into constitution, bringing these both to 18. This will give you +4 to your attack and damage rolls with melee weapons. Increasing your constitution modifier to +4 will bring your total HP up to 44, which is pretty damn good. As far as equipment is concerned, you'll have to decide what type of weapons you want to use. You can dual wield, use a two-handed weapon, or use a one-handed weapon and a shield if you like. It's really up to you and how you want to play, but you should match this to your passive ability selected at level 2.
Two-handed weapons.
I like to use a two-handed weapon because there are some fantastic ones in early access.
Yeah, they're fucking
fun. The
fun.
choice is yours. As far as armor goes, you'll likely be using medium armor most of early access since there doesn't seem to be any good heavy armor. However, this works out well because you can use your dexterity modifier of +2 completely, giving you at least 16 armor class, 17 if you use Lysel's Githyanki half plate. You can get it up to at least 20 AC with this half plate, with the defense passive at level 2, and if you use a shield. As for accessories, really the only one you absolutely need is the Warped Headband of Intellect, which I mentioned earlier. This one item makes this build shine in early access, and if it remains in the live release, you'll also want to aim to get this one there as well. Final tips. If you're using a two-handed weapon, try to use Cleave first before expending a spell slot on an AoE spell. Save your spells for when you need them most because they have a lot more versatility. Unique weapons can have effects on them that will be applied to Cleave, like Exterminator's Axe, which is great. Lysel makes a fantastic candidate for Eldritch Knight if you have her in your party because she's a Githyanki, and at level 4 you can get her strength to 18 and dexterity to 14. The downside is that she'll have less HP than a player-made character, but the difficulty of early access at the moment isn't so bad that should matter too much. Lastly, use Magic Missile on hard-to-hit enemies even if they are point blank. This is especially true of those enemies in dark places or ones that use Mirror Image. It can help you deal with annoying enemies quickly so you can get back to pummeling things in melee. Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content as we take a look at
it can just be done with Lysel. I don't actually have to make my
channel
character.
Questions about the game.
Interesting.
If you need something specific,
I
check
think
out
I'm
our
going to do that
DD3
next
wiki, which is
playthrough.
being
Make
worked on.
Lysel Eldritch
In this Baldur's
Knight.
Gate 3 build guide, I'm going to be covering my Warlock build for early
okay.
access and
I
showing
wanted
you
to
what I
fuck
found
around with
best.
Will, but let's see if
I'll be doing
he
more build guides at
recommends
launch
using
of
Will
Baldur's
and
Gate
making
3,
your own
but for
character.
now, let's look at how you can use a Warlock effectively in the first act of the game. Warlocks in Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access are extremely powerful because of their cantrip Eldritch Blast that does between 1 to 10 damage every use from 18 meters away, and cantrips can be used every turn without using up spell slots. Additionally, they have some very good spells that deal AoE damage, and they can use Misty Step once they reach level 3. Misty Step allows them to teleport to a location they can see, allowing them to get up high easily where they have advantage when using Eldritch Blast. Advantage means they can roll 2d20s when attacking, and use the higher of the two values for their roll. This increases their hit chance significantly, so they should always look to get up high at the beginning of combat if they can, much like Rangers and Mages try to do in Divinity Original Sin 2. In this section, we'll take a look at how to set up your Warlock during character creation for best results. You don't have to follow this to the letter, and it's likely this will change at full launch of the game. However, this will hold you in good stead during early access.
Let's see.
What background you choose isn't of serious importance here, so you're free to pick and choose what you like. The only exceptions are that you should not choose any backgrounds with intimidation, persuasion, or deception. This sounds completely counterintuitive because all these things benefit from Charisma, which is the Warlock spellcasting ability modifier, the stat that affects its spell's accuracy and DC. However, you can select Intimidation when you get to the skills section, and you'll gain Persuasion and Deception at level 2 by taking the Beguiling Influence passive. This will allow you to gain other skill proficiencies from your background, which you can use for other skill checks throughout early access. The races I suggest using when making a Warlock are Half-Elf, Asmodeus Tiefling, or Drow. Half-Elves and Tieflings will allow you to get to 17 Charisma during character creation, however you only need to get to 16 for early access. This is because you will gain the opportunity only once to gain additional ability points at level 4 during early access, and you don't want to get an improvement in an ability modifier at odd numbers. You'll be aiming to get to 18 at level 4, and this will give you +4 to your Eldritch Blast hit rolls, as well improve the difficulty it is to save against your spells. Half-Elf will allow you to get to 17 Charisma and place 2 other ability points, which is great. They also have Dark Vision, allowing them to see better in dark places, improving your accuracy in combat and helping you locate things. Asmodeus Tieflings, besides Dark Vision, also have the added benefit of the Thaumaturgy cantrip, which gives you advantage on intimidation checks if you use it before trying to intimidate people, which is extremely useful. Particularly because you'll have a bonus of +5 to these rolls from the very beginning of the game. Drow will allow you to get to 16 Charisma and have the added benefit of superior Dark Vision, allowing them to see twice as far in the dark as either Half-Elf or Tiefling.
Drow
this
Warlock,
means your
that
accuracy
seems
in dark
pretty cool.
locations will be even better in these places than Half-Elf and Asmodeus Tiefling on average, but the choice is up to you. As far as class goes, obviously we're choosing Warlock here, but which subclass is really what we're deciding, since this must be done during character creation for Warlocks. You get to choose from the Fiend and the Great Old One so far in early access, and really the choice comes down to whether or not that you want to have the Dark One's Blessing or Tasha's Hideous Laughter and Dissonant Whispers. Dark One's Blessing is supposed to give you temporary hit points equal to your Charisma modifier plus your level when you kill an enemy until you rest. However, I believe this is currently bugged. While Tasha's Hideous Laughter and Dissonant Whispers can incapacitate targets, making them forego their turn, which can be extremely valuable in fights where there are tough enemies. Dissonant Whispers even deals a good chunk of damage as well. It's really your call here, and you can use whichever you feel is best. Whatever you do though, make sure you take Eldritch Blast.
So in the future, I have played like a Warlock past level 4 in D&D. The Fiend is like... It's like you cut a deal with like a devil or a demon or some shit like that. And I can't remember, but like I play like a Warlock that has like a companion, a companion that's like an imp. That's like a Fiend Warlock.
Blast for one of your cantrips, because as I mentioned,
versus
it's going
the
to
other
be your
Warlock
primary attack every round.
I mean, it
Another
doesn't
great
really get
cantrip to take
into like Hexblade's Curse and shit like that in
Divide it
Warlock.
as friends, as this allows you to gain
early
advantage on
access.
charisma check rolls against
I don't think.
non-hostile targets. Cast it on them before entering dialogue if you can, and you should be able to get the desired rolls you want more often than not. If you chose the Fiend, then make sure one of your spells chosen is Hex, because it allows you to increase your damage when using Eldritch Blast against the target, and it's a bonus action, meaning you can use it and then use Eldritch Blast in the same round. Just remember to save Hex for tough enemies, as it uses a spell slot, so you'll have to rest to get these back. If you chose the Great Old One, you can take Hex at level 2 and use Tasha's Hideous Laughter and Dissonant Whispers at level 1. For skills, you want to take Intimidation and any other skill you wish. It doesn't matter which you take here, so this one again is completely up to you. When it comes to ability points, you want to make sure that you are at least at 16 in Charisma so that you gain a +3 ability modifier. Other points should be spread between Constitution, Dexterity, and Intelligence. Intelligence, although not useful in combat, encompasses a large number of skills, and if Warlock is your player character, then it is wise to have a few points here to help with dialogues and interactions. Remember that at level 4 you'll gain 2 ability points, and these should both go into Charisma if it's at 16 during character creation, so be sure to make Dexterity, Constitution, and Intelligence even numbers so that you don't waste ability points. 14 Dex, 14 Con, and 14 Int is not a bad spread here. If you take Charisma to 17, then at level 4 you can bump Charisma just 1 point and place the remaining point into any other ability. At level 2 you'll gain access to some Eldritch
If they lock you out on the
that will allow you
point
to
by though,
further
like how
customize
high
your
you can go in character creation.
Of these, the most important one to take is Agonizing Blast, which adds your Charisma modifier to the damage of your Eldritch Blast cantrip. This will be +3 damage until level 4, at which point it will become +4 when you increase Charisma to 18. The other Eldritch invocation we'll take is Beguiling Influence in order to gain proficiency in Persuasion and Deception. This means at level 2 you'll gain +5 to your rolls when trying to persuade, deceive, or intimidate in dialogue, really helping you get those outcomes you want.
Yeah, I probably should run
Make sure
Will
to
on my
use
next
this character
playthrough
when
too.
going into the majority of dialogues for best results. If you haven't taken Hex yet, be sure to do so here, otherwise any other spell will do if you already have it. Read their descriptions and see what they do. I tend to avoid defensive spells and focus on offensive ones that AoE. At Warlock level 3 in Early Access, you gain Pact of the Chain, which allows you to summon a familiar to assist you in combat.
This
so make
is
sure
it.
you start casting this outside of combat so it can help you defeat enemies when fighting. Additionally, you'll gain access to some level 2 spells, and you can pick one to use. I personally like Misty Step, as I mentioned before, but you can take whichever you wish. Hold Person is a great way to remove an enemy from a fight, and Invisibility can be used in a number of creative ways in or out of combat. At Warlock level 4, you will place points into your abilities, making sure you reach 18 in Charisma. This will increase the bonus to your Persuade, Intimidate, and Deception checks by +1, as well as adding +1 to your Eldritch Blast rolls and +1 to your Eldritch Blast damage. It is hands down the best thing you can do at this level in Early Access. You'll get to take another spell here as well, so if you didn't take Misty Step at level 3, take it now. Or choose from one of the others I suggested, or whichever one you think fits best to you. As far as equipment goes for this Warlock build,
He emphasizes
you don't need to worry
Misty
about
Step.
weapons at all.
I didn't realize
spells.
I never realized how good Misty Step was until I got like an amulet or something that allowed me to cast it without using a spell slot or some shit like that, and getting in positions like
95% of the
really
time.
important in this
Weapons
this
are
game.
only used when you're in melee range and you can't move away without taking damage. If you do, however, need to use a weapon, make sure it's one you are proficient in. You'll be using light armor, so you want to look out for leather armor +1 or studded leather armor if you can. This will ensure that you have at least 14 armor class, which is not terrible at all. You can use any accessories you find, but I have not found any yet in Early Access that would improve upon this build much. Final tips. Always aim to get up high during combat on the first turn if you can in order to gain advantage on your Eldritch Blast cantrip. This will increase your hit chance and is vital to success in many of the more challenging fights. Use Misty Step once you have it if you need to, and don't be afraid to jump if you don't have it yet. If you're using Will for your Warlock, then you'll want to make sure you put both ability points into Charisma at level 4 in order to reach that +4 modifier. Also, it's a great idea to have him initiate dialogues when possible, because he will gain all the benefits that you would if you were a Warlock. Lastly, Warlocks have the disadvantage that they will max out at 2 spell casts before they need to rest in early access, which is not as much as other spellcasters. However, they do recover all uses on a short rest. Take advantage of this and remember to use your short rest when you don't need to go to camp. Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content on this channel.
Warlock in 5 Dungeons and Dragon 5e. It's like, hey, that was a hard fight. Good fight. We take a short rest. That's a fucking Warlock.
In this Baldur's Gate 3 Warlock build guide, I'm going to be covering my melee Warlock build for Update 4 of Early Access and showing you not only what has changed with the class that allows this to be possible,
oh, is this
but
Hexblade?
Also how to do it effectively. If you've been wondering how to make a melee Warlock in Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access, watch on to find out. Note that this is more of an advanced guide and it already assumes that you have some knowledge of the Warlock class, or that you've watched my Warlock guide.
We just
Warlocks in Baldur's
watched
Gate
it.
3 are extremely powerful because of their cantrip Eldritch Blast that does between 1 to 10 force
Eldritch
damage
Blast.
every use from 18 meters away, and cantrips can be cast every turn without using up spell slots. Eldritch Blast gets even stronger at level 2 if you select the Agonizing Blast Eldritch Invocation, allowing for a damage potential of 5 to 15 damage every use at 18 Charisma. If you factor in the use of Hex, which can add another 1 to 6 necrotic damage, this becomes 6 to 21 damage nearly every turn. And that's even before you would mention that Eldritch Blast gains advantage if used from elevation. Why on earth would anyone want to play a melee Warlock in Early Access then? If you factor all those things together, it seems like there'd be no reason to, but there is, and that's because of the change to the Eldritch Invocation Devil's Sight in Update 4. Devil's Sight now allows Warlocks to see inside their darkness spell, and not suffer blindness while standing in it. So what? Big deal, right? Wrong. The benefit of darkness is that it causes blindness on enemies standing inside it, and you gain advantage when attacking enemies that are blind, and they gain disadvantage when attacking you. However, you cannot attack enemies with ranged attacks who are inside darkness, so you must melee to gain the full benefit of this spell. How does the damage compare? Let's check it out. At 16 strength, using a Greatsword +1, you'll deal 6 to 16 damage per swing. This is actually a bit more than Eldritch Blast if you're not using Hex, but this damage can be increased further at level 4 if you take the Great Weapon Master feat. Great Weapon Master allows you to deal an extra 10 damage but suffer -5 to your attack roll. This means that you should only be using this if you have advantage on your attack, which you will if you're standing in darkness, and will increase your damage to 16 to 26 damage per swing. You'll still have decent accuracy on your attacks, but you'll hit for mega damage, but there is more. You will also gain a bonus attack if you kill a target, so you can attack twice in one turn fairly regularly. However, the true power of darkness is that if used properly, you can pick off enemies without ever triggering combat, allowing you to systematically wipe out entire groups solo, never taking damage. Enemies cannot see what is happening in darkness, allowing you to perform nefarious deeds, and then stroll out as if nothing at all has happened. I'll explain how to do this at the end of this guide, but for now, let's look at how to set up this build.
Keep chomping
in order
away.
For this build to work with the most efficiency, you must select the Githyanki race during character creation, and there are a few reasons for that. First, you need the added strength bonus so that you can get to 16 strength in character creation. Second, you gain medium armor proficiency, increasing your armor class. And third, you gain the greatsword proficiency, giving you +2 to attack rolls. Remember that you must use a heavy weapon to gain the extra 10 damage from Great Weapon Master, and you'll need all the hit chance you can get when using it. For abilities, you need 16 strength for attack and damage rolls while in melee. You need 14 dexterity for +2 armor class that medium armor allows, as well as for the bonus on stealth skill checks. Your other points should be split between Constitution and Charisma in some way, and that really depends on whether or not you also wish to cast other spells and use Eldritch Blast effectively now and then. You need to maintain concentration to keep darkness up, but you should hardly ever be hit. This is what my abilities look like on my build, but you can swap Constitution and Charisma around if you prefer. At level 2, you need to select the Devil's Sight Eldritch Invocation in order to avoid blindness while standing in your darkness spell, but you can select any other Eldritch Invocation to pair with it. It's not particularly important which
I play a Warlock that has like an imp companion. I have Devil's Sight and I cast Darkness
you use,
and do
but
shady
you can
shit.
Use Eldritch Blast now and then with this build, so you might want to take Agonizing Blast if you put points into Charisma. The subclass I recommend taking here is the Fiend, because you will almost never use the extra spells from the Great Old One, and gaining a damage bubble when you kill an enemy can come in handy. You don't really need it either, but of the two, the Fiend is much more likely to play a role in combat. What spells you select at level 2 are not particularly important because you'll usually only use your spell slots on Darkness and Misty Step once you have them, but Hex is not a bad choice for any Warlock. I find I almost never use it with this build because Darkness requires concentration, but it is not bad to have for those times when you don't use Darkness. At level 3, you'll obviously select Darkness and you can swap out any other spell for Misty Step. Misty Step is useful for when you need to take out ranged units that won't come into your Darkness, or you want to get up high in Eldritch Blast. You should only need to cast 1 Darkness per battle, so it's good to have Misty Step available in case you need to make a swift departure. You will also gain a Familiar at level 3, and the Imp now comes standard with Dark Vision in Update 4 and can also see inside your Darkness. This allows it to use the same strategy as you, attacking enemies in the Darkness with much better hit chance and avoiding damage at the same time. Always use the Imp when you can. At level 4, you'll gain a feat, and you really have 2 options here. You can either take Ability Score Improvement and take 2 Strength, giving you a total of 7 to 17 damage on your melee attacks with a Greatsword +1, or you can take Great Weapon Master. Of these two, I suggest taking Great Weapon Master because it's one of the few builds in early access that can really take advantage of it and make it work properly, but the choice is up to you. At the beginning of the game, swap your armor and weapons immediately with Lysel in order to get better armor and a longsword. Swap out this armor for Chain Shirt or Chain Shirt +1 as soon as you gain Darkness because you don't want disadvantage on stealth rolls. It's very bad for this build. However, you won't gain Darkness until level 3 anyhow, so having higher armor class early on is better. Additionally, buy or pick up a Greatsword for increased damage. Greatsword +1 is the best weapon you can have for this build if you take Great Weapon Master, so make sure to grab that or Sword of Justice when you can. I have not tested the short sword of First Blood yet, but one can assume based on the changes to Colossus Slayer of the Ranger class that it now works in Update 4. This would be 8 to 25 damage on full health targets if you used it, and a short sword +1 in the offhand if you took Ability Score Improvement as your feat. This is one route you could take, just keep in mind that it isn't as easy to get to, and this would only apply to your first attack. Subsequent attacks, should you not
That
kill
sword's
a target,
difficult
will
to
deal
get.
7 to
I have it,
17
but I don't
damage.
remember where I got it. It was
This
later
is the
in the
same
game.
damage as Greatsword would deal if you took the Ability Score Improvement instead of Great Weapon Master, which does 16 to 26 damage. What accessories you use are largely irrelevant for early access, but the Amulet of Misty Step is particularly good, since it's really the only other spell you need to use. This allows you to use your other spell slot for something else if you need, or to use Misty Step a second time if necessary. Learning how to use Darkness should be your first priority, and the way I've found best is to walk up to enemies I want to engage with and throw it down on the nearest few. You can do this while hidden if you want. They will then not be able to see you, and once inside the Darkness, I hit spacebar to put the game into turn-based mode, then I attack one of them, then use the hide bonus action, and then I hit spacebar again to end my turn. Usually, the enemy cannot see me and then does nothing or moves a bit, and I repeat this process. Doing this will trigger a stealth check when you attack, which will not be too difficult to pass. This allows you to repeat this process nearly every round, and even if somehow you do trigger combat, you can just hide again and enemies won't attack you. Note that you don't even need to have good stealth skill values or proficiency with stealth to pass these checks, but it doesn't hurt to have it because you may need to sneak up to enemies to begin combat. This technique also allows you to slip out of the Darkness area and attack enemies with advantage due to being hidden, and then move back into Darkness and hide again. Enemies that are too far away can be taken care of once nearby enemies have been dealt with, and you can use Misty Step to get to them if necessary so that you can still get an attack off. One thing to note is that while Darkness makes it easier to pickpocket merchants because NPCs cannot see you while doing so, it doesn't reduce difficulty checks. Still, if you want to take skill proficiencies in stealth and sleight of hand, you can use them to great effect with this build. Coincidentally, the Urchin background
murdering them, holy shit.
Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content on this channel, including build guides, and be sure to drop by our Twitch. In this Baldur's Gate 3 Companions Guide, we're going to be taking a look at Will in Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access and which spells, feats, and equipment to use and how to improve your reputation with him. We'll also discuss which are good companions to take with him and what your party might look like depending on which companions you know for sure you want to use. Will has decent ability scores, having high constitution and charisma, which are arguably the two most important abilities for him. Same ability modifier for wisdom, but would not have a -1
go
penalty
through
to
warlock
strength
shit
saves
again,
and
right?
checks. You can make a better optimized warlock for your main character and +1 to constitution, 1 dexterity, and allow him to wear medium armor and use a shield to make his Eldritch Blast more likely to hit, as well as do an additional damage. Or you can take the moderately armored feat to grant him +1 dexterity and allow him to wear medium armor and use a shield. Since Will does not need to use a weapon at all, the shield will give him an additional +2 armor class, and he won't lose out on damage in the slightest. This can give Will a total of 19 armor class, while still maintaining some of the highest damage per turn in early access. Will is proficient in Arcana, History, Intimidation, and Persuasion, and he has excellent ability modifiers with all 4 of these, making him a good candidate to take around with you when you're exploring or speaking to people. Will should be talking to nearly everyone for you when possible, unless you yourself are a warlock or you have higher charisma, which is unlikely. The Fiend Warlocks gain a feature called the Dark One's Blessing that rewards them with extra HP, sort of like a health bubble, whenever they kill an enemy. The amount they gain is equal to their charisma modifier plus their level. This means with 16 charisma at level 4, Will would gameplay replace it without using spell slots, so you can use this as much as you want. Eldritch Blast cantrip is going to be Will's primary means of damage, and it can be cast from up to 18 meters away. Cantrips can be cast every round without using spell slots, so you can use this as much as you want, and you likely will. It counts as a ranged attack, so this targets the armor class of the enemy you're attempting to hit. Eldritch Blast uses your charisma modifier for its attack roll, but not damage roll, and it can be made more effective via Eldritch Invocations, which we'll cover in the next section. At level 2, Will get to choose 2 Eldritch Invocations from a list of 9. There are a couple of ways you can go about
Agonizing
selecting them, but I
Blast
think
is
the most obvious choice, and the one I would recommend taking no matter what, is Agonizing Blast. This will increase the damage he deals with Eldritch Blast by his charisma modifier, which will be +3.
Dude, there's like Eldritch Spear or some shit like that, and it doubles the range of it. Can you imagine fucking double the range on Eldritch Blast? That'd be amazing.
Since he will use this cantrip just about every round, that's a significant increase to damage, about 30%. There are 2 others I'd suggest taking, but you can only take one, so you'll have to choose which. First is Devil's Sight, which will allow Will to see in the dark up to 24 meters away. Will is a human, so he has no dark vision, and his accuracy will suffer in places if he does not have this.
Human.
The other is Repelling Blast, which will allow Will to see in the dark up to 24 meters away.
Okay, so Devil's
Will is a
Sight.
human, so he has no dark vision, and his accuracy will suffer in places if he does not have this. The other is Repelling Blast, which knocks enemies backward when they are hit by Eldritch Blast. This can help knock enemies to their
So
death
many
because
dark places
elevation
in the
plays
game,
a
though.
huge role in combat in Baldur's Gate 3. However, there are downsides to it, like knocking an enemy backward that might have been threatened by a party member. Rogues gain sneak attack damage against opponents threatened by another character, so you might prevent the extra damage. Or you might knock an enemy off a map and lose out on its loot. The choice is yours here, but I highly recommend you take one of these 2. At level 3, Will unlocks the Pact of the Chain feature, which is only available to Warlocks. This gives you access to summoning additional familiars or face spirits. These can be in the form of an imp or a quasit, on top of the usual selection of animals such as spider, raven, or rat. I recommend choosing the imp since it deals good damage due to sting. This spell deals 1d4 piercing damage with the chance to inflict an additional 1d6 poison damage. Not only does it have good HP, it is also immune to poison. And since the imp is a flying familiar, you can cast invisibility on it and have it scour potentially hostile areas like the goblin camp effectively. Should you wish to summon another creature, you can do so by recasting the Find Familiar spell without spending any of your resources. Just be mindful that this can only be done when you're outside of combat. At level 2, you want to pick up the Hex spell because it allows you to deal 1d6 extra necrotic damage to any target you hit with an attack. Eldritch Invocation is considered a ranged attack, so these 2 combo together nicely. Hex only remains on the target as long as you maintain concentration, which means you need to avoid taking damage if possible while it's on the target anyway. Maintaining concentration on your Hex is particularly important because if the target dies while it has Hex on it by your blast or by via other means, you'll gain a bonus action Hex that allows you to cast Hex again without using up another. You'll kill it and repeat this over and over without ever having everything goes according to plan, is to cast it on every single target you plan to attack with your bonus action, and then use Eldritch Blast with your action.
Secluded
Hopefully you'll kill it
Cove.
and
I've
repeat
never
this
found
over and
this.
over without ever having to use up additional spell slots to recast it. Warlocks do not gain many spells the way wizards and clerics do, so picking good ones is very important. One is to get a powerful spell elevation, which is where there are other good spells. Still will reach armored feat. He
Pretty similar to the Warlock
for
guide.
accessories, amulet, however, it is from a dialogue. He also in your party. Also, it gains disadvantage when Will is threatened in combat. Sometimes you'll need your bonus action for something else, like before you might be hit and lose back on its own. Intelligence like Gale or the main character, or you're not using Lysel or Astarion as Eldritch Knight or Arcane Trickster, then Will makes a good candidate for the Warped Headband of Intellect. This will boost his Arcana and History rolls by a further +2, giving him +6 to these in early access. Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content as we take a look at companions and builds. In this Baldur's Gate 3 companions
go
guide,
Eldritch
we're gonna be
Knight with
taking a look
Lysel,
at
though.
Lysel in Baldur's Gate 3 early access and which spells, feats, and equipment to use, and how to improve your reputation with her. We'll also discuss which with you at any time. She is likely the 4th companion you will acquire. Lysel has very good ability scores for a fighter, making her one of the best companions in early access for combat. Because of her base racial speed, she can move up to 9 meters per turn. She has excellent strength and good constitution, making her particularly suited for melee combat. There are some features that can help further improve her abilities, which I will now discuss. At level 4, I highly recommend choosing the Ability Improvements feat, as this is the best feat in early access for Lysel. It allows you to allocate at least 1 point into any of your 2 abilities, so I suggest investing in both strength and dexterity. When her strength becomes 18, you effectively raise her strength modifier to +4. This improves her attack roll, increasing the chances of hitting her enemies. It also allows her to deal more damage using melee weapons. Additionally, when her dexterity is raised to 14, she gains an extra +1 dexterity modifier. This is very important as it enhances Lysel's armor class, which prevents her from easily taking damage. With a higher dexterity, her chances of attacking first due to initiative are also better, not to mention she will also gain +1 to attack and damage rolls with any ranged weapon she has equipped. Lysel is proficient in athletics, acrobatics, arcana, survival, and intimidation with longer distances at 8.5 meters. Lysel's charisma modifier is the lowest among the 4 other companions likely to intimidate anyone successfully if you wish to supplement your skills with some wizard spells depending on your party composition. Either subclass is perfectly fine in early access. At level 2, Lysel gains Action Surge, which provides 1 additional choice, so regardless of gain 3 class, Rally is good for. I suggest.
I want to see her talk
However,
him talk
you
about
choose defense if you
this
wish,
class.
as this is not a bad choice if you want to be a bit tankier. At level 3, if Lysel becomes a Battle Master, you gain 3 class passives out of 4. I suggest choosing Menacing Attack to deal extra damage while possibly inflicting Frighten. Riposte is also recommended as it deals massive damage when the enemy misses a melee attack. Rally is good for a bit of emergency healing as it allows you to add health to a friendly target as a bubble of sorts. The beauty of being a versatile fighter is that you can also gain menacing or pushing attack skills which you can use as melee or ranged attack depending on what the situation calls for. Usually you'll aim for close encounters, however in the event that you're far away from the enemy, switching to any bow or ranged weapon and using the ranged version of these skills to finish off a target's HP is perfectly acceptable. On the other hand, if
1
Lysel
out of
becomes an
81
Eldritch
health.
Knight, remember that she'll have +0 intelligence modifier at 11 int. As a result, her spellcasting ability will be lower, so it's important to choose spells that do not rely on intelligence. Should you wish to make more spells effective for her, you can acquire the Warped Headband of Intellect to bump your intelligence to 18. Since you will unlock 2 cantrips and 3 level 1 wizard spells, I recommend the following. For cantrips, which don't require short or long rest for reactivation, I suggest choosing Dancing Lights as it illuminates areas of up to 18 meters. This is particularly essential when you fight targets hidden in the dark to increase your hit chance because Lysel does not have dark vision. For Dancing Lights, concentration is required, which means you should not take damage nor cast another concentration spell if possible. Otherwise, the effect will be broken. Blade Ward is also a good option to gain more resistance against bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage on top of your decent armor class. If you equip the Warped Headband of Intellect, then it's a good idea to choose cantrips that are ranged attacks, as this balances well with Lysel's powerful melee attacks depending on the position of her enemies. Both Firebolt and Ray of Frost can inflict fire and cold damage respectively, at a range of 18 meters each. For the first set of wizard spells, I recommend choosing Magic Missile, Witch Bolt, and Burning Hands. Magic Missile is one of the strongest and most effective spells in early access that doesn't require intelligence whatsoever.
I'll try to fuck around with Thunder
affects
Wave.
damage nor accuracy, so you should definitely select this one. Witch Bolt allows you to deal lightning damage for each turn by simply activating it as long as you maintain concentration. You can also choose Burning Hands, which deals fire damage, but the range is much shorter at 5 meters. For the second set of wizard spells, I suggest selecting Expeditious Retreat, where dash turns into a bonus action.
Yeah, Expeditious Retreat, I didn't realize it was a bonus action.
Allowing you to move faster. You can take advantage of this spell if you want to rush towards an enemy to finish him or her off, or if your HP becomes dangerously low, which is rarely the case with Lysel. Lysel should maintain the Githyanki half-plate medium armor she is given by default, as a better heavier armor is not available in early access. This allows her +1 dexterity to her armor class and +2 if you increase her dexterity ability score at level 4, thereby increasing her armor protection in early access, not including spells or shields. When it comes to weapons, I highly recommend using a martial two-handed melee weapon to yield the highest melee damage potential in early access. Greatswords and battle axes, particularly the Blooded Great Axe, can be purchased from Dammon in the hollow part of the Druid Grove. This battle axe easily cuts through enemies and has a special ability called Relentless Revenge, which allows you to deal extra slashing damage should your HP fall equal to or below 50%. The second option is to use the Exterminator's Axe, which can be obtained in the Decrepit Village in the Underdark. This weapon provides the same slashing damage as the Blooded Great Axe with a bonus fire damage against plants, insects, and small creatures without any other requirement. Another weapon worth considering is the Sword of Justice, which provides the spell tier's protection as a bonus. This is a level 1 wizard spell in the form of a bonus action that increases a target's armor class by 2. Tier's protection is helpful especially if you wish to protect yourself or an ally who is on the brink of death or has relatively low armor class. For accessories, the best item is the Warped Headband of Intellect if
I really got to pay attention to some of these spells. They're fucking bonus actions.
you're an Eldritch Knight because it automatically boosts your intelligence to 18. As a result, most of the spells you use, such as Witch Bolt and Burning Hands, will have higher chances of landing on the target. You can acquire this from the Ogre Mage, Lump the Enlightened, located in the Blighted Village. The Sapphire Spark is also fantastic if you're playing an Eldritch Knight, as it significantly boosts the damage of Magic Missile by around 75%. Once you obtain this, you almost always use Magic Missile, except on very rare occasions, since you simply won't get better bang for your buck with her in early access. If you're a Battle Master, I suggest equipping Cherished Locket if you do not have the Dancing Light cantrip to see and hit better in the dark. You can obtain this item after completing the Saving Arabella quest. In this section, I'll show you how to gain Lysel is an excellent Lysel, as well as how to gain Disapproval if you wish. These are not all the ways possible in early access, but these are the ones we've accumulated on the wiki so far. Final tips. Lysel is an excellent character if you intend to inflict huge bursts of damage up close and personal, because she has some of the best damage potential regardless of her subclass. Her decent dexterity score prevents enemies from easily hitting her, and makes her good enough with a bow to use it when she needs it. Just remember that her fiery temper and goal-oriented nature can prevent you from peacefully negotiating with others. Furthermore, you should prioritize Lysel's search for the Githyanki Kresh, as she gets very impatient, which can result in a bloody fight between the two of you. In terms of positioning, Lysel should be within 2 meters of enemies, especially if you plan to use Cleave beforehand. This action can be gained from a wide variety of weapons such as greatswords, longswords, and battle axes, to name a few. Cleave is a melee AoE attack which allows you to hack out multiple targets at once, and in some cases, you can even use it as a finisher. The skill is not limited to the Battlemaster subclass, so you can use it on Eldritch Knight as well, depending on the weapon she has equipped. With regard to equipment, I prefer two-handed weapons, but you can certainly deal above average damage should you opt for any one-handed weapon with a shield. The shield amplifies your armor class, making you harder to hit, and unlike some other companions, Lysel's Githyanki Halfplate should be worn all throughout early access. You may have to change this once the full game is released if there is a better alternative in the form of another medium or heavy armor, but at the moment there is not. Lastly, you should consider including Lysel in your party, especially if you already have Gale or Will, so you can capitalize on her Battlemaster subclass. It should also be noted that Lysel and Shadowheart's personalities tend to clash, so it would be better to play these two characters separately. You might end up provoking either of them too much, which may cause retaliation. Stay tuned for more Baldur's Gate 3 content as we take a look at companions and builds, and be sure to drop by our Twitch. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin 2.
So I never played Divinity Original Sin 2, so I kind of see what the difference is.
One of the questions I'm asked on stream or in YouTube comments is,
I think after Baldur's Gate,
I like Divinity Original Sin 2,
3 early
like
access.
Baldur's Gate 3. It's sort of a tough question to answer. I
Divinity
think the
Original
is
Sin is definitely
yes,
a
but I want to
possibility.
dive into the similarities between Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin 2, as well as the differences to sort of enlighten you on what you can expect. I haven't done a video like this before about Baldur's Gate 3 or DOS 2. I feel like I've made some comparisons throughout the videos I've made in this, but I probably should have made this video a while ago considering how frequently it's asked. So let's jump into the similarities first and discuss what's similar about these two games. The first similarity should be obvious to anyone who's seen footage of Baldur's Gate 3 and DOS 2, and that's that the games look very, very similar in terms of the visual quality. The art style of the games is very similar, and that's because the engine of the game is the same. Baldur's Gate 3 is an adapted version of the DOS 2 engine. It's upgraded, so to speak. So you're going to see that similarity when you look at the gameplay almost immediately. And also, like DOS 2, Baldur's Gate 3 features Origins characters, or characters that are their own unique persona, companions that you can bring along with you in the game, that have their own quests and dialogues. The number is currently 5. I believe there are going to be more. I'm not entirely certain on that. DOS 2 had 6. So there's going to be these in the game, and they, you
and there was a
tiefling, one of these, just like you could in DOS 2, or you
Ranger,
can create your own character.
She ran off the Baldur's
very
Gate.
Similar. Larian's been making changes to this over time. Slowly, it's getting more and more its own thing, but you'll still see similarities. It should feel familiar to you, particularly the inventory screens and things like that. Character creation looks somewhat similar. So these things are going to feel very familiar to you if you've played DOS 2 as well. Additionally, you're going to play in a 4-player party, just like DOS 2. You cannot have more than 4 players, but you can have up to 4 players. So like DOS, you could play with 3 players, or 2 players, or 1 player. And there isn't currently a way to play Lone Wolf in Baldur's Gate 3, but there is some discussion around Larian about possibly adding one for the launch of the game. So that is a feature that may be there at launch. In Baldur's Gate 3, combat is handled in a turn-based fashion somewhat similarly to Divinity Original Sin 2, but also that the characters in combat each have their own initiative, and this is going to determine their place in combat. In Baldur's Gate 3, the characters are going to roll on this, so this is going to be somewhat random in each combat, whereas in Divinity Original Sin 2, this is a static number, and you simply go first. Each character will determine its order by how much initiative they have, but they are similar in that each character does have its own initiative that determines where they'll go in the turn order. And just like DOS 2, Baldur's Gate 3 features a lot of freedom in the ways you can resolve quests. There are lots of dialogue choices with various outcomes, and there are many ways you can resolve things, either through interacting with the environment or using your imagination to come up with creative ways to do this. And just like DOS 2, Baldur's Gate 3 features environmental interaction with things like spells and, sort of surfaces. It's been toned down dramatically in Baldur's Gate 3 compared to what you'd see in DOS 2. There are places in DOS 2 where you'd set entire rooms on fire. That doesn't really tend to happen in Baldur's Gate 3. But you can set like water electrocuted, or you can set things on fire. But I think in Baldur's Gate 3, there's more of a focus on environmental interaction, being able to throw boxes or throw things.
There's like an entire there's a few areas I could remember. There was like the next to the burning house, and then also there's like these thieves where they kidnapped an artist and they kept him like painting portraits and shit in the basement, where you could like literally blow everything up by burning one barrel just like this,
or knock something flying, etc. And it doesn't rely as much on the actual elemental synergies, more has environmental impact.
Maybe it's more in DOS.
Other similarities are that the game is multiplayer up to 4 players. Co-op, this is something that DOS 2 implemented. So if you like a co-op RPG experience, then you can do that as well in Baldur's Gate 3. Jumping into the differences of it here now that we've gone through some of the similarities, I think the most obvious difference that stands out to anyone who's played the game any little bit of time is that Baldur's Gate 3 is based on 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons rule set. So the game has to follow that. I wouldn't say to the letter, because Baldur's Gate 3 definitely doesn't do that, but it sort of has to fall within those guidelines, and where they diverge from that is going to be, minimal as much as it can. So they're going to, sort of use that as their guiding force, the 5th edition rulebook, and maybe diverge from it a little bit here and there. For instance, like there are weapon abilities, certain weapons have abilities like cleave or bleed on them that don't exist.
Shoving
in 5e,
and shit.
That have been added to this to give, martial classes a little bit of something in combat that they wouldn't normally have. But just generally speaking, like they cannot create classes out of thin air or create mechanics that don't exist in 5e out of thin air very easily and without the approval of Wizards of the Coast. So this is something you shouldn't expect. Talking a bit about the combat, although the combat is turn-based, it doesn't follow an action point, action cost formula, meaning like you're not going to be able to use stronger abilities that cost more action points, and each turn is a puzzle where you're trying to figure out the best use of all your total action points to get the most effect you can. Instead, each character has 1 action, 1 bonus action, and 1 movement. This is somewhat similar to Pillars of Eternity 2, if you're familiar with the turn-based mode they implemented. In that game, you got 1 action and a movement. Here, you get a bonus action as well that allow you to do things like shove or jump or dip, etc., or hide.
Dip.
But it's very similar to Pillars of Eternity 2 in terms of
I rarely ever use
the way
dip.
Combat is handled in that regard. Probably the biggest departure from DOS 2 and Pillars of Eternity 2, since I just mentioned that, though, is that martial classes really don't have a lot of skills and abilities the way that spellcasters have a lot of spells. That is to say that martial characters that are using ranged weapons or melee weapons primarily to deal damage, are just going to be moving, attacking, shoving, jumping a lot in combat with not a lot of like fanfare to it. You're not going to use Battle Stomp or Whirlwind or any of these abilities. So if you're playing one of these classes, you might feel like it's a bit dumbed down compared to Divinity's system, while if you're playing a spellcaster class, you might get a little bit more of that fanfare that you're used to from DOS 2. One thing I want to bring attention to is that Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't use a classless system the way that Divinity Original Sin 2 does. This is probably obvious from what I just said, but you're not going to be able to like completely customize a character to be like a fire warrior that can also jump up high and shoot a bow. Like, it doesn't have that level of customization and freedom for each character compared to DOS 2. However, there is going to be multi-classing in Baldur's Gate 3, even though it's not added to the game yet mechanically. Which is going to allow you to take like, several levels of one class and maybe another level of another class. So maybe you'll be like a level 5 fighter and a level 1 rogue, or maybe you'll be a level 3 ranger and a level 7 cleric. However you want to do that is kind of up to you. So there is some customization there.
Fighter, sharpshooter.
Optimization, those things are a little more restricted in how optimized they can be. So I feel like, overall, in terms of just broad spectrum customization, you're probably going to have a little bit less in Baldur's Gate 3 compared to the things you could do in Divinity Original Sin 2. Another thing I want to mention about combat specifically is that each turn from your character doesn't have as much impact on the battlefield as it does in DOS 2. That's to say, like, best case scenario probably in Baldur's Gate 3, most of the time you're probably going to kill one character at best in one turn with one character. Or maybe you kill one character and you finish off a really weak character as well if you use something like Magic Missile or something like that. That's usually best case scenario. In DOS 2, you could, hit 5, 6 enemies at a time, or 3 or 4 enemies at a time, or CC a couple enemies and kill another one with one turn by using things like adrenaline or whatever. So there isn't as much of an impact on each character's turn, and that might be slightly disappointed to people coming from Divinity Original Sin 2, where they have these fantastic rounds where like they absolutely just smashed it out of the park. That sort of thing isn't going to happen, and so I think people that are coming from DOS 2 need to, set their sights a little bit lower in terms of how much power your character has in one turn. Another thing I want to mention for those of you loot fans out there is that Baldur's Gate 3 has static loot. That's to say that if you run through the game a second time, you're going to see the same loot in the same locations, so you can sort of plan your route based on your build, knowing that, hey, there's a good staff over here, there's a good armor over here for what I'm trying to do. Go pick that up and you're in business. DOS 2, even though it had some items that were static, primarily like the unique items, a lot of the loot was randomized. I'd say the vast majority of it was randomized, so you didn't always know what you were going to get, and sometimes you had to adapt to what you were getting. Some people really like that random loot property. Some people prefer the more static, but just to give you an idea, Baldur's Gate 3 has static loot. Another thing that I want to mention in Baldur's Gate 3 is that dialogues take place in the form of cutscenes or small dialogue screens, kind of like you would see in Dragon Age Origins or Dragon Age, for instance. So when you go up to a character, you sort of prompt a little, window that pops up.
Just attack the hag out of nowhere.
Sort of transform into like a, one-on-one conversation where you get to pick dialogue options. Instead of DOS 2, where it just kind of remains on the overworld map or, the isometric viewpoint where you just have your dialogue there. In this case, it's like a full-on proper Mass Effect type experience. So that's pretty much a breakdown of what the differences are between Divinity Original Sin 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. I think it's very probable that you will like Baldur's Gate 3 if you like Divinity Original Sin 2. There are things about Baldur's Gate 3 I like better, and there are things I like about DOS 2 better. I think that's going to be normal for most people. I don't think either game got it perfectly, and probably if you combine the two games together, you might have the most perfect game ever made. But again, Baldur's Gate 3 is restricted by 5th edition. And I want to talk for a second about, 5th edition D&D. You don't need to know 5th edition D&D to play Baldur's Gate 3. You don't need to be an expert, though.
No,
it
you
does
don't need
help.
to know.
It helps more in terms of creating a.
It helps with like the physics and shit.
From the get-go.
Or like, not the physics, but like, how do you explain it? It's like driving a car. Like, if you've never driven a car before, but if you rode in a car and you understand the physics of a car and what all the buttons do before you actually drive the car and what the pedals do and how to accelerate and decelerate, that's kind of what it does. Like knowing
in character creation, I'd say that probably gives you the biggest advantage, because once you get out of character creation,
you can still learn to drive a car without ever experiencing it before. So
there isn't a whole lot of development that's so crazy that it gets overwhelming or anything like that. I feel like knowing 5th edition D&D helps far more in character creation than just about anywhere else in the game. So I highly suggest, if you aren't familiar with 5th edition, that you watch a video.
Cool. Yeah, my fat head's blocking it, but this is Fextra Life's videos. I like his videos a lot. They're really informative and pretty what do you call it? Information dense. So let me just load in this game, make sure that I save it. And then we'll start a new one. I'm not gonna get that far tonight, but we'll see. 30 minutes. I think I'm gonna make a cleric. A light cleric. Make Lae'zel into an Eldritch Knight. And then I'll have Will. And Gale or Astarion? Probably Astarion. So bam, bam, bam. These three. I'm not gonna have Shadowheart or Gale. Fuck, I don't know. Gale's strong though. Nah, because I have a Warlock. I think it'll be fine. I'm gonna spam Eldritch Blast anyways. We're gonna gank them hoes. Alright, so let me just save this. Is that my old saves in here? Damn, look at all these saves. That'd be a faster way to do it. Can I make a note? Oh, I can make a note. Druid, circle of moon, calm. Druid, calm. All right. We'll just be called Tav.
Who are you?
Who are you? Ooh, I can't remember if he said light domain or life domain. Look. Alright, here's extra lights thing. Hermit? Be a hermit. Wood elf.
Where to next?
Where to next? Yeah. I think this is right? Light domain. Deity? Does it... Oh. Does the deity matter? I think so. Sure, we'll go with tier. We don't want to be Char because we're not gonna fuck around. Holy fuck, there's a lot of ball. Wait, where's ball? I remember some of these. This is gonna be like a good. Yondala, that sounds nice. We're gonna be ranged, so we're gonna do guiding bolt. Less. Man, halt's pretty good. Healing word. Skill. Oh, it's like a point buy, I see. Yeah, I'd rather have 2 points in Constitution, or another point in Constitution than 2 points in Charisma. It does the same because it gives me a +1 modifier.
Tell me, who do you dream of at night?
Give me the weird. Yeah. Someone that I can throw. A little dude. Give me some freaky. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, give me some freaky deaky. Give me some of that fucking weird. They call him Tripod. That's who I dream of at night.
My head.
Would I make this bigger?
Someone else got out.
Oh, this is the thing with the nursery. This is where the slugs were. Oh, I never got this cutscene before.
That thing
parasite now writhing behind your eye.
Investigate the pool. First roll. Not good.
You notice nothing more than meets the eye. Its casing crumbles beneath your hand.
Oh, shit. Fucking blew up on me.
Dead. Good.
I'm almost dead. Oh shit. The fuck? Almost fucking died. Didn't kill me. We good, we good. It's fine. We're fine. It's fine. I'm gonna heal. I think this gets spells back too. Yeah, we're fine.
Better.
Tutorial levels. It's fine. It's fine.
Devil King. Am I in the hells?
Faint images appear in your mind. A brain, a Githyanki warrior, and centuries of darkness.
Oh, this dude's up here? How the fuck? Oh, is this a elevator? Oh, I didn't even know. I didn't even know. He doesn't look too good. Oh shit. Oh dude, I can see your fucking brain.
Yes, you've come to save us from this place. From this place you'll free us.
The exposed brain quivers
the
in
fuck?
expectation.
Please. Before they return.
What?
They return.
I think it's a passive point saving. Tell me what to do.
Remove us from this body. From this case. Free us.
The fuck? What the fuck? Gently prise the brain from the skull? Pry? How you spell pry? Nat fucking 20. You'll be alright, dude.
The brain lifts from the skull.
Oh.
But you notice an opportunity. You could cripple the strange creature, making it more subservient should it prove a threat.
Mutilate the brain. Oh my god. Oh, I missed. Ah. Ah. Oh, dude, it's making my fucking head. Oh my god, it's making my fucking head tickle. No. Oh shit. I mean, burning hands, right? There we go. Dude, that was fucking crazy. Whoa. They just like, it's just like a full character and they just like crop the fucking top of its head. He looks pissed too. He's like, fuck. Funny. Oh, there's a bunch of chests up here. Cool. Cute. That's something I haven't experienced. Oh, boy. Where's my mouse? I couldn't find my mouse for a second. Gonna ambush.
Your head.
Imps block the path for fur. We will address them.
You prove surprisingly adequate in battle.
Thanks.
Now, to the helm.
Need a ranged weapon. Wow, 1d8 crossbow? Right from the start? Damn. Oh, wait. I need basic one. Oh shit. That's not good. Oh. Fucked up Lizzo. Throw that shit. Woo! That was cool. Ah, motherfuckers. Shit. Oh my god. Having the experience of playing this game for so much, knowing that I can throw explosive fucking shit is amazing.
Another mystery. She made them stop.
Damn, fucking crit punched me? Shit.
We have no time for stragglers.
Can I save her by blowing up the thing next to her?
Warding runes. The pod won't open and let the construct.
This ship is crashing. Do you intend to die for a stranger? Wait! It cannot be helped.
Oh. Just flammable? Okay.
How many hosts are these gay infected? Cane char.
And then preserve me. That cannot be a key. For what?
With a fucking chest in the previous room. What do you think it is? I can't remember if there was anything in this chest or not.
Needs a key.
Interesting.
We are nearing the helm. Do it.
We need to get out of here. Now.
I hit space, and I don't mean to hit space. It's not like the correct. But I click on her fucking frame.
If this ship hits the ground, we're dead.
I empty. I thought he was coming over to fucking fuck up Lazo. I was like, oh shit, no. Ever double move. Setting up for a good flaming fist or whatever. Not flaming fist. Burning hands. Ooh, I can get. Ooh, pretty good.
Forward, Istik, before more dragons come.
Can I kill? Wait, can I kill Zoc? Oh, the Mind Flayer's almost dead. Wouldn't be able to hit him, I don't think. Probably AC is probably way too high. Make like a when you connect the tentacles and they're like slapping together, they're like vibrating or whatever. It should be like the most like grossest, like gross, wet, vibrating, low bass sound. I've been watching Hannibal recently on Netflix, and one of the deaths was like the guy killed the guy, and then he like tanned. So I guess like violin strings and string instruments used to be made out of like animal intestines. He like tanned the guy's vocal cords and so he could play his vocal cords like a cello. It was fucking crazy. Hannibal's fucking crazy. Ah, damn these high heels.
Hells. I can't believe I'm in one piece.
Hey, we made the character got off the Nodaloid. That's good.
Must have been fishing when these monsters came. Bad luck. Fresh water. There must be a settlement somewhere nearby.
The obstacles in my path. Blasted! What?
Suddenly.
Cut these. You and I'm hoping, but I've barely made a dent in it so far. I think this is beyond. Be my guest, but that door's too strong. Maybe there's another way, up the cliff. Hopefully, there's no more. No, you're the friendliest face so far. Likewise.
Oh wait, no, she didn't join my group. Oh, whatever. She's not gonna be in my group anyways. You can get fucked up by these things.
More of those wretched things.
Yeah, I didn't want her to run away. She's just gonna chill out over here. What are you doing? Fucking running laps. I totally clicked the wrong fucking dialogue option too. Oh well. I don't need her. She's not gonna be in my group anyways. I think I can kill these things by myself.
Better stay back. One strike could be lethal.
Woo! Right in the butt of his brain. I'll have Gale in the party until I get Will. Oh, I could have blew up that thing. Didn't even think about it. So happy they took the fact that you don't have to have the helmet skin on your head.
Harry, there, in the grass.
Just a dumb bore. You're relieved.
Don't we? You're in
your mind. You try to.
What was that? They took hand to think. I was my name's Astarion. I was the strong and please tell me you at least know something. Although it hasn't happened yet. Well, yes, of course. But first things first. You know. And you all right.
Okay. Darian. Sure. Decker.
More survivors? They're trying to dig somebody out of the wreckage.
Not sure, but we better find out.
So much blood. Monster. Death is too good for it.
We'll find Gale. Go find Gale and the Gith Yankee chick. Gale pops out of here, right?
Last I was glad to see my eyes deceive me. Very sane. Yes. Not. You're staring at me like a Rashimi at a black. I take it you recall the insertion of the pack. I assume you're no accomplished healer either. Not the power to remove tadpoles, I gather. How about we embark on the quest for a healer together?
Most excellent.
Get the party back together, and then I think I'm gonna have to call it a night here.
The thing?
And if
you
again. Get rid of them.
Shoot the trap down, kill him before I harm someone. Future is dangerous. Get out of here. Leave it to me.
he's right. Let's go. We need to check. You didn't hear it. Shook our camp good, so we came for a look. Northwest.
And be... Enough gawking. Get me down. Never.
Fucking teaser. Say please.
Enough dawdling. Get me down. The tadpole, but my people possess the cure for this. Githyanki protocol is clear. You may... The cure I offer will suffice as that. You have made... Come, a creche must be near.
Okay. Actually, let's get to the camp. Oh, but nobody's leveled up yet. All right, so yeah, I'll call it here. All right, so yeah, new playthrough. I'm gonna be a cleric, but I'm of the light cleric, so I have a little bit more offensive spells. Yeah, so started this playthrough. See how this of the light kind of goes. I kind of want to like try to perfect the advantage of taking attacks from elevated positions, shit like that, and make some different choices this playthrough as far as like dialogue options and who I side with. This is gonna be like considered the good playthrough. I'm gonna be like genuinely good. So I'm gonna have Will, Lae'zel, and Asterion in my group. I'm gonna drop Gale. Although Asterion's kind of weird. He's like, you know, he's like a vampire minion, so he I guess he is kind of evil, but I think I can work. I can still work with him. His abilities are really, really strong, so we'll see. But I have a 50-50% chance of being on tomorrow night, so they haven't decided whether we're gonna have Dungeons and Dragons on Friday or Saturday. It's gonna be one or the other, so look out for me on the other nights. Yeah, I'll try to get on a little bit early tomorrow if I don't have D&D. But stay safe out there, guys. Wash your hands. Wear your masks. Try to stay the fuck away from people if you can. And have a good night. Peace and chicken grease.